The Green Bay Packers select Jordan Love, quarterback, Utah State.
Edgerrin Cooper, linebacker, Texas A&M.
The Oakland Raiders select Josh Jacobs, running back.
The Dallas Cowboys select Michael Parsons.
The New York Giants select Xavier McKinney.
Welcome to Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin's exclusive coverage of the NFL Draft. Draft coverage on Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin is presented by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Potawatomi Sportsbook is the sports betting oasis for fans everywhere. With dozens of sports betting kiosks, drinks, food, a monster video wall, and more. It's your place to become a legend.
And there is your dagger!
Over the next 3 hours, we'll break down every pick as it happens and analyze how it impacts your Green Bay Packers.
Jordan Love has the most physical upside of any of these guys. He's got it all. I mean, an effortless load-to-release delivery.
So let's get this thing started.
Let's go!
Along with the voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee, here is Packers OT host Bill Schmid.
It's time for the NFL Draft as a new wave of NFL players and potential standouts and stars join over the next 3 days. I'm Bill Schmid alongside the voice of the Green Bay Packers, Wayne Larrivee, here inside of our network studios. Our coverage here brought to you on Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin, live on YouTube, Facebook, X, as well as Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin 920, 1070 AM. It's brought to you by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. And Wayne Larrivee, as the draft is always chaotic. It starts up crazily. We got the commissioner up here. We got Cam Hayward and some more Pittsburgh Steelers. That looks like TJ Watt hanging out. A much different NFL draft, but I got to say, a little bit warmer than first night of night one last year. Yeah. Sitting there outside of Lambeau Field. Always excited to be able to be with you for the next 3 days.
It's going to be great, Billy. Looking forward to these tonight, tomorrow night, and Saturday. We'll see the Packers build their roster through the NFL draft, and we get to watch the whole thing and react as the picks are made.
People have been asking me, and I know this has got to be a similar thing for you throughout the last number of weeks. How different is it now since the Packers don't have a first-round pick? Well, now that we're here, we get to watch along with the rest of the country and see where a bunch of people slot up, but most importantly, we get to see how the rest of the NFC North continues to build because it's been one of the most competitive divisions in the league for a number of years now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, everybody in the NFC North had a winning record last year, and you can't say that about the NFC West, which everyone seems to say is the best division of football. Certainly at the top it is, but the NFC North throughout, top to bottom, none of those teams had a losing record, which is phenomenal.
And the team drafting first in the NFC North will be the Detroit Lions. Last couple of years, we've come into this selection meeting and only been talking how highly touted the Lions would be, and coming off a remarkably disappointing year last year. Obviously, Ben Johnson going to Chicago, a much different spot there. But now you see that team in a little bit of flux. They're probably going to be grabbing a left tackle here tonight. I got a feeling, Wayne, once we get this thing started, and the Heisman Trophy winner, the national champion, Fernando Mendoza, finishes his year of glory as the number one overall pick. I'm excited for my favorite offensive lineman, I think, to be potentially the position we hear the most named off here tonight.
I think so, Bill. I think there's no question there's going to be a run on offensive tackles in this first round. I'm not quite sure where it'll start. My guess is it'll be kind of late, by that, I mean middle of the first round, but you're going to see offensive tackles come off the board, and there are only so many good ones. But as you and I have talked, a lot of these offensive tackles project either to right tackle rather than left, and many of them project to the guard spot.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that are potentially going to be bumping inside, and then there's a couple of potential just future stalwart left tackles. I think Caden Proctor is a fascinating name that's going to be coming off the board maybe earlier now tonight than we were anticipating at one particular point in time. But unanimously mentioned Mendoza. He's the number one pick. I don't know that I've heard a lot of people, though, Wayne, say he's their number one player. I think Daniel Jeremiah had him as his number one prospect, but I think rather consensusly, the player that most people have been excited to see, he's going to go early here tonight, maybe not second or third, But Jeremiah Love is a game breaker, and he translates quickly to being one of those guys in the NFL.
Billy, I think of all the people in this draft, he's the guy who can right now, tonight, if they had to play a game tonight, he could make plays. And he's a playmaker. I think I count about 6, maybe 7 or 8 true playmakers in this draft. And the man that'll be selected first is not one of them.
No, and Jahmyr Gibbs is a natural comp for Jeremiah Love. I think Bijan Robinson is another name that I think of. He's a little bit more stocky. The other one, and his teammate there at Notre Dame, I got a feeling we're going to be talking about him tomorrow night, potentially in a Green Bay Packers uniform. I'm a big fan of Price, the running back there from Notre Dame. We got a lot of time to be able to discuss that. It's felt like wide receiver has been a calling card over the last number of years here in this draft. There's going to be a couple taken earlier. Carnell Tate, my favorite. I think he's a little bit more physically imposing than he leads on, 6'2", nearly 200 pounds. Wayne, but it's hard when you're not the main star in your own room.
Yeah.
And coming out of Ohio State, where Jeremiah Smith still has a year before he could be one of the first guys taken next year.
Yeah.
It's hard to be the leading man.
I was reading something today. The scouts felt that Jeremiah Smith is better than any of the receivers in this draft right now. Yeah. And he can't come out, as you mentioned, till next season. I think one of the more fascinating guys in this draft is Omar Cooper Jr., the wide receiver out of Indiana. Will he go in the first round? I think there'll be a run on wide receivers in the first round, Billy, because I think at that position, much like offensive tackles, the really good ones you're going to have to get early, and that'll create a run on that position. I think the two deepest positions, or one of the deepest positions in this draft, is edge rusher. Mm-hmm. Will we see a lot of edge rushers go tonight? Yes, we will. But understand something, on the second and maybe even the third day, early on the third day, you could probably get a very good edge rusher. That's how many good ones are in this draft.
And that's going to be one position that I think we both feel pretty soundly on, that the Packers need to add here. They need to add at corner. That might not be as frequented a position here tonight, maybe 3 or 4 on night one. But it seems like for the majority of this draft, the best talent in the log jam of corner talent might be when the Packers actually have selections on day 3.
Yeah, I think, again, cornerback is another position where day 2, you should be able to get a good player there if that player fits what you want to do. So this is a fascinating draft from the standpoint of a couple of things, and we talked about it on the radio earlier this morning, Billy. This is a draft that's kind of top-heavy with playmakers early on, and then you go into a situation where many scouts that I've read and many teams seem to feel they've got about 15 to 18 true first-round grades on these players. Well, there are 32 first-round slots.
That ends up being a problem on
that. So that tells me that the guy that goes maybe 15th or 18th in the first round of this draft, the same caliber player is probably going to be there in the second round, the same caliber of player.
I'm excited to be able to see what kind of players the Packers are able to acquire, starting up at 52 tomorrow night. They got 52-84 tomorrow, 120, 160, 201, 236, and 255, as we'll wrap that up on Saturday with the NFL draft here. But you mentioned Omar Cooper Jr. They're showing some highlights right now of Mendoza firing a lot to Omar Cooper Jr. I'm fascinated to see, Wayne, if that ends up being – we've seen the stack, right, where a lot of teams have drafted the quarterback and then followed it up maybe a year later, but drafting somebody that they had a relationship with through to in college. I wouldn't be surprised if Cooper Jr. slides down the board maybe a little bit. Maybe if the Raiders do get a little aggressive and try to add there, because they definitely need a lot of help, and that would be a spot to add somebody with an established connection right away.
It wouldn't surprised me to see Cooper slip into day 2.
Mm-hmm.
Not a total surprise in that regard. I think a lot of it depends on the run of wide receivers. I think the run of wide receivers will come up a little quicker than the offensive linemen, but the offensive tackles are going to get taken in this first round. And there are a couple of interior linemen, Billy, that I know you are high on that also have a chance to go in this first round.
Yeah, Malioga might end up being the first of the offensive linemen taken. We'll be able to see that as everybody celebrates in Las Vegas. Not because they're getting a hand pay. I think it's because they know that the man that they're hoping to pay a large sum of money here, Fernando Mendoza, is about to get a call with his family there in Miami. A little bit toned down celebration, Wayne. When I hear that he's going to be in Miami, he's going to be hanging out with the family, he's going to be having his own draft party, I was expecting we had some aunts, some uncles, a party out. Now, maybe there's a big party outside that we're not seeing in a little viewing patio, but looks like Fernando Mendoza is enjoying his domicile here tonight. NFL didn't like it. They definitely wanted to see him walk across that stage and be able to celebrate, but tales and almost reminds you of a Joe Thomas trip onto a boat as the number one pick in the draft is going to be hanging out and getting his name called sitting at home on his couch.
You know, Mendoza is a different kind of dude. He's a very family-oriented, religious young man. We've seen it in his interviews. He's with his family. They're all dressed up to the nines.
Oh, yes.
I mean, and Fernando's
Everyone
in a coat
good.
and tie,
Yep.
but everybody's dressed up. They were in what looked to me like a family portrait picture that they were showing on TV.
It did look like it was right off of the mantle.
Yeah. No, it's something, and they'll probably be on the mantle if it isn't already. But, you know, he's a little bit different sort in that regard. And, you know, he said he wanted to spend this night with the people who helped him get to where he's at. So you didn't see it in the picture. You saw family. But from what I understand, his party includes all of the coaches, the Pee Wee League coaches, high school coaches, college people, all those people who had an influence on him as some former teammates, that kind of thing. They're all at that party.
It really is
It's neat.
It is. And Wayne, frankly, it's a story that I think only today's day in college football you could tell. He ends up winning the national title in his backyard against Miami, the school that he desperately wanted to play for, and even into the portal thought he potentially could play for, goes to Indiana, brings them their first national championship when they started the year as the losingest program in college football history, and then they win it as national title holders. I've struggled with the conversation around Mendoza because I think he's a good player, Wayne, but you see a couple of years ago while you and I were up in Green Bay getting ready. We'll talk more about Fernando Mendoza as Commissioner Roger Goodell gets ready to get booed for the first time here tonight as we go to the Steel City and the IC Light as the commissioner's at the podium.
In the 2026 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Fernando Mendoza, quarterback, Indiana.
Wayne, I think he's a good player, and he excels at all the important things that you need to be a quarterback in the NFL, the intangibles, the leadership. And as much as, and sometimes as corny as it can sound, he seems to play his best when it's most necessary. And that's a trait that is hard to be able to replicate.
Yeah, it really is, Bill. That's an intangible that you really can't coach. I mean, a young man's going to stand up and make a play when it counts most. We've seen it in I hate to say this, we've seen Caleb Williams do that a few times recently. This is something that not every player has. This player seems to have it. You saw it in the national championship game against Miami. Times were tough, and he was able to step up and make some throws. The throw he made at Penn State to win that ball game in the final seconds was phenomenal. The thing that strikes me about this kid and watching tape on him, he's very accurate on the move.
Yeah.
And most guys are not accurate on the move. You get them moving outside the pocket, and they're not very accurate, even the athletic guys. But this guy may not have the wheels of the big-time athletic quarterbacks we've seen in the past, but what he does have is when he does move and gets out of the pocket, he's still very accurate.
And he is a physically imposing guy, right? And he's 6'5", 240 pounds. That's one thing that you just can't teach. And it's one thing that the other quarterback that potentially is going to go here tonight, Ty Simpson, just can't have, right? He has tremendous footwork. He's got good arm. He can accurately place the ball where he wants to have it, but he just doesn't have the one thing that Mendoza is showcasing right now in that size and stature. And you're right, his accuracy and confidence throwing the football into some tight windows. You just have to be able to do that in the National Football League. You got to believe at some point, whether just or not, that your guys are better off going to be able to go and make that play.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And but again, the accuracy that he brings, I think, as you mentioned, Bill, and I think that's, he knocks the IQ test out the window.
Big time. Yep.
He's just big in that regard. He'll get on a grease board and he'll do X's and O's with the best of them. But I just think that this is a guy who's come a long way. Okay, it wasn't easy for him. He didn't get to start from the top, and as a lot of these major prospects do. But he's the kind of kid who, when adversity hits, you know what? He can definitely step up and make a play or two. I think having Kirk Cousins with him and Clint Kubiak in place with the Raiders The offense that they're going to run, a lot of quick hitters and slants, that's something that a young quarterback with his accuracy can excel in.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned Kubiak. Everybody's given a lot of the flowers, rightfully so. I think Cousins is the perfect pairing with Mendoza's personality that we've been able to showcase. I think that one makes the most sense. But, Clint Kubiak seems to be a very mild-mannered, calmed guy in that position, but has so many years of football experience in that family, Wayne, that, people might not like it, and sometimes people despise it and hate it, but there's a reason why they've continued to roll through and why he's found some success at so many different places. I don't know that he's as athletic, as quick, potentially outside at certain times as Darnold, but Clint Kubiak just won a Super Bowl with a quarterback that might not have been the biggest, might not have been the strongest, and Sam Darnold ultimately ends up winning one. I think Cousins is the perfect comparison for Mendoza at the NFL level. And Wayne, people always want to see Mahomes. They want to hear that he's going to be Josh Allen. They want to hear he's Lamar Jackson. There was a good run there where Kirk Cousins was the 7th to 12th best quarterback in football, and that's a hard thing to pass up.
Billy, he was what Jared Goff is today. He was that 5 years ago,
totally.
Kirk Cousins. Yep. And you could win with a quarterback like that, and he was outstanding with the Minnesota Vikings. So the thing is, how does Fernando Mendoza, the top pick, and the Raiders surprised us, Billy. We were both floored, totally. But they made him the first pick of the draft, and we're, of course, being facetious, folks. But, the thing you wonder, what does he become? What's his ceiling as a quarterback in the National Football League? The scouts speculate, and this is kind of dangerous, but the scouts say he would be a good mid-level starter in the National Football League. You can win a Super Bowl with a guy like that.
Yeah,
and,
you can.
There's no reason to think he can't go beyond that as well.
And the funny thing is you also have to, take it where it is. It is the Raiders we're talking about here, right? I think they take Kirk Cousins at one point, right? Now, granted, if the great Al Davis was still here, he might have ended up taking Carnell Tate. He might have ended up taking the speed wide receiver. But I think 6'5", 240 pounds, and a national champion and a Heisman Trophy winner, that's a tough one to pass up for anybody. So now the draft starts, and it starts with the JETS. Jets. Which edge rusher goes number 2, Roger Goodell?
In the 2026 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select David Bailey, linebacker, Texas Tech.
David Bailey was my favorite guy to go at this spot, and not because of anything at that Potawatomi Sportsbook that was plus 140 most of the day for David Bailey to be the second overall pick in this NFL draft. Edge rusher from Texas Tech, Wayne, and when you watch Bailey play this year, there was a time when watching Texas Tech was only for the real Saturday sickos, right? That was only for the real ones of us that like to paint ourselves with that much Big 12 football. Texas Tech was a problem this year. Bailey was a massive part of it, but he's not some upstart random guy that found his way here. He's a former 5-star recruit. He ends up going to Stanford, graduating in 3 years, maximizes his earning potential last year because Texas Tech had the biggest oil money check and ends up being one of the biggest reasons why that was the best defense in all of college football.
Great story behind it. And, he finished with 163 tackles, 42 TFLs, tackles for loss, 29 sacks, 10 forced fumbles, and 4 batted passes. His older brother, DJ, played defensive end at Harvard. David graduated from Stanford, as you mentioned, before departing there. So this kid there's no question about that. As a pass rusher, he's probably the best pure pass rusher, would you say, in this draft right now from the edge?
Wayne, he has a plan, right? And I think that's what we've seen locally with Lucas Van Ness has been somewhat of a struggle right out of the gates. When you are not as defined and confident in everything you're doing as an edge rusher, you can get swallowed up in the NFL. He has a plan of attack and a counter plan every single time he takes the field. And he might not be the most explosive athlete, but dude, his bend off the edge is serious. I would agree. I think he was definitely the purest pass rusher in the draft. Maybe doesn't have the crazy athleticism that Arvell Reese possesses, but you can make up for it in size, speed, strength, and just wit. And he has a great motor, great understanding of the game. And Wayne, a little old school. My man doesn't wear gloves all the time, and there's the little intangible things that I like about that kind of a guy.
The guy doesn't wear gloves. That makes him good.
Well, it makes him strong as an ox, or a little bit psycho. And if you're going to be an edge rusher, you just might have to have a little bit of both. So this one felt like it was Reese early on, ends up going Bailey. Maybe here with Arizona at number 3 is where the first trade comes down here tonight, because I think Arizona new head coach Mike LaFleur, they'd love to add capital. They'd love to find more opportunities to enhance their football team. But Wayne, I struggle to not be trying to make my football team a whole lot better with Jeremiah Love right now.
I mean, seriously. And there's an argument earlier this week that they're not ready for Jeremiah Love. If he's that kind of playmakers out there, I don't care if you don't have an offensive line. Go get one, but get him first.
Yeah, go get him first.
These guys don't grow on trees, folks. I understand that. But the guy coming up that we think should be picked number 3, the running back out of Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love, that's the best playmaker in this draft. That's the one guy, we talked about it at the top, who can come in today, get off the bus, get into the locker room, put his uniform on, and make plays. If the game was tonight, that's the one guy that could do that. These other guys, they got to prepare a little bit. This one running back can make big-time plays. One last point on David Bailey. He ran the fastest 40 at the position, 4.51. I think that's important when you're coming off the edge and chasing down plays, chasing down quarterbacks. Arms were 33 3/4. That's pretty good. Hands, 10.25 inches. Big hands.
Yeah,
Billy,
those are mitts.
Strong hands.
And Wayne, when you're thinking about 4.51 at 250 pounds, that's sick that human beings are able to move that fast. And it makes it even more impressive of all the offensive linemen that are going to be selected here tonight to try to slow guys like that down. Because when you got a plan and you are that smart and you back it with that kind of athleticism, that can be a needle mover. And remember, the Jets are the first football team in NFL history to go an entire season without an interception. He might not get an interception this year, Wayne, but he's going to help him break that streak. Yeah. He's going to help him break that run as he goes and meets some Jets fans in Fireman Ed and takes a picture with the selfie stick. And that's exactly what we like to see in the Steel City. Looks like a beautiful night there in Pittsburgh, doesn't it? Yeah. Doesn't look like they had space heaters like we may have needed last year up in Green Bay.
Did we have them in that little tent? We were.
I don't think you guys.
We were kind of.
You had the Doug Russell space heater, which might, I've heard feeds off a lot of heat at that particular. Yeah, well,
I'd have something to say, but I would regret it if I did.
That's why he's the Hall of Famer and the most seasoned professional on the show. Somebody's got to be a pro here as we're with you on the NFL Draft Show coverage here on Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin, presented by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. So we're going to get the third pick. We're going to take a timeout after we hear the third pick, or we're enjoying it with you as the Cardinals are going to select here. They are going to select, from what it appears. They are not making a trade. I felt like this was the first spot that would be really open for business, and whether or not it's Jeremiah Love, whether it's and I don't believe it would be an offensive lineman this early. Maybe it'd be somebody on the defensive side. But Wayne, that would be a tough one for me as the Cardinals brass to not give my new young offensive minded head coach an offensive weapon here. And Mike LaFleur running a similar style, you would assume, to what we watched with the Packers, with what he was just running with LA. He fits that kind of mold and that kind of outside run game. It just feels like a perfect marriage.
No doubt about it. We think, so we're thinking the Cardinals are going to go running back in this situation, but they've got to be tempted by Arvell Reese.
Big time.
The thing about Arvell Reese that's interesting, they list him, Daniel Jeremiah has him as his number one prospect. Daniel Jeremiah, among others, the Beast also. Dane Brugler has him number one as an edge rusher out of Ohio State. The thing about it is he's played more off-the-ball linebacker than edge in his college career, and that gives people some pause.
A little similar to Micah Parsons. Let's see if it's Arvell Reese for Arizona.
With the third pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Jeremiah Love, running back, Notre Dame.
There he goes. And Jeremiah Love got a sweet chain on, and he walks into the NFL after a tremendous career at Notre Dame. And Wayne, this is the tough part about this draft. And we might see one here with Sonny Styles coming up at pick number 4. Positional value. You've heard just hammered and crammed down your throat for so long. He walks in now after he signs his rookie slotted contract as the 7th highest paid running back in the NFL. That's where people think that you got to be ready for a player like this. I don't know if the league's ready because Jeremiah Love's a legit guy. I think that's gonna be money well spent for Arizona.
As much as Arizona needed to help out their defense, you just can't let a playmaker like this, whether you're ready for him or not. Then people say, well, they don't have the offensive line for him. Let me tell you something. Larry McCarron told me this. Running backs make offensive lines more than offensive lines make running backs.
Totally. Yep. And Wayne, when I hear you and Rock talking about it, and you can tell he's very, very good at it. You can tell that maybe it might frustrate him a little bit. The offensive line plays down considerably around the NFL. And it feels like a bullpen in baseball. One year you could be in the bottom third, and then very quickly something clicks and a couple of guys have a career year, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, this is a better unit than anybody thought it could be.
Or you put a great running back behind there who can make plays.
Make it look a lot better. You make it look a lot better with that kind of speed. All right, we'll take a quick timeout. We'll be back with pick number 4. Will it be Sonny Styles? Will it be Arvell Reese? Will we get our first trade of the night? We'll find it all out as the folks in Nashville on the clock in 2027 with a new stadium, maybe a Super Bowl, and the 4th pick in the 2026 NFL draft coming your way. We're just getting our shooting shirts off, just getting warmed up. You're listening to the draft coverage of the 2026 NFL draft with Wayne Larrivee, voice of your Green Bay Packers. I'm Billy Schmid of Packers OT, and the Huddle on Fox Sports Radio, Wisconsin.
Welcome back to Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin's exclusive coverage of the NFL Draft, presented by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Along with the voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee, here is Packers OT host Bill Schmid.
You are listening to the 2026 NFL Draft on Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin, and we're 3 picks in, 1 more to go. Here comes number 4 by way of Nashville.
With the 4th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Carnell Tate, wide receiver, Ohio State.
Carnell Tate, first wide receiver gone. First Ohio State Buckeye gone. That would have been an upset at the Potawatomi Sportsbook as well, as he hits the stage and celebrates with his new fan base as he is welcomed in as a new Tennessee Titan. Wayne Larrivee, voice of the Green Bay Packers. It makes sense. It really does when you think of a team that goes number 1 with a quarterback 1-1 last year in Cam Ward. You felt like their first pick, you'd want to help that young quarterback. I think they were hoping that, as there was a lot of smoke early on in the draft process, this could have been Jeremiah Love. However, Arizona jumps them, and they go get a playmaker out of Ohio State.
Yeah, Carnell Tate, 6'4", $192, 4.44 40. Okay, so this guy can move. He's kind of like Malik Neighbors in that he's a precise route runner type of guy. Mm-hmm. Excellent hands. High volume receiver in the NFL. So this is a guy that quarterback can throw the football to a lot. He may not have, Billy, quite the explosive speed we've seen on some of these prospects at the top of the draft in recent years, but he certainly can separate at the top of routes as we've seen on tape. He's not Garrett Wilson. He's probably a little less than Chris Olave, but he's still really good.
And you know what, Wayne? He is so competitive at the catch point. He I can't take everything from just what you see in person, but he had the most impressive catch I saw all year long, outside of Jamar Chase getting interfered with, taken down to the ground in a penalty that I believe is a felony in 15 states, and still catch a touchdown at Lambeau Field. He went up in cover 2, split the seam, got absolutely sandwiched, lost his helmet, still came up with the football, and did his blow the kiss celebration, which is an ode to his mother, who was tragically taken in a drive-by shooting in the suburbs of, or the city of Chicago, where he grew up, right as he went to Ohio State, faced adversity as a young man. And Wayne, that's something that you just can't manufacture. These guys, there's a lot of things said about the prospects that are going to come out here. And this is an individual that is far from the silver spoon situation that a lot of people think NIL provides and breeds. He's a real one, and I'm excited to be able to see what he does at the NFL level.
Billy, you bring up such a great point. And folks, the players we're hearing about tonight, you're seeing them at the very top of their professional lives, of their football lives here tonight. But you have to understand one thing. Most of them have come from really difficult circumstances, not just athletically in terms of the competition they have faced along the way to get here, but also, as you just pointed out, some real tragic happenstance in their lives that may have happened along the way. They lose a parent, they lose a brother. They grew up in the streets, and a lot of it. We talked to Donald Driver when he came out about how he spent time as a homeless person. He and his mom. The people in the NFL, we see them at training camp, we see them on Sundays, we see them in their glory, but you don't understand. We laymen have a hard time getting our hands around how difficult it is, not just to get there, and that's if everything goes right, but the fact is most of these guys got there when most of it went wrong.
And Wayne, you've called all professional sports, so you've seen all the different types of locker rooms, right? Like, obviously there's some in basketball where you're together all the time for football. There's so many players, there's so many people. Really, no two guys are alike. It's one of the greatest melting pots that you're actually going to see in the world. And it really, I just always think it exemplifies just how incredible the human being ends up becoming, because there's a lot of growth that happens, and really, really excited for Carnell Tate. I hate to bring it up, hate to be like ESPN was a couple of years ago, where it felt like they were finding the worst situation that ever happened to a human being on their greatest night, but it really does. A lot of times it's how you shape into the story of the guy he became, and he is a grinder, and he's a battler, and he is a ball player. And I'm excited to see him with Cam Ward, who felt rather under-discussed as a number 1 overall pick last year. And obviously his team earned the number 4 pick, so it wasn't a tremendous season, and his coach got fired. But Wayne, I thought he did some good things when watching some of the tape. I don't believe that's a full lost cause there in Nashville.
No, and you can't write off a prospect after just a season, no matter what position we're talking about here, and certainly not quarterback. And Cam Ward, he gets a solid receiver in Carnell Tate. Is this guy a burner, folks? No. I mean, 4.4 sounds fast, but he's really probably closer to 4.5. But all the best receivers ran 4.5. I'm talking about Jackson Smith and Jigba, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams. They were all in the 4.5 range, and that's where this kid is here. So it depends. We talk about the 40 a lot, and we get lost in that. But what we're really looking at, what the scouts look at, is functional football speed. What does he do when he's got the helmet and pads on a football field, not on a track where he's trying to make a time?
Well, and you bring up such a good point with all those other guys. What do they have is real precision in their route, and they have a plan, and that's one of the most important things we just talked about with pass rushing. When you're running a route, you got to have a plan of how you are going to create separation, because what Carnell Tate was able to separate like in college, that goes away now that you reach the NFL. Yeah. We're talking about just centimeters and inches that you're getting. But separation is the name of the game.
It's the little things that make a difference on the pro level, because let's be honest, folks, you got to understand, I mean, the pro you're talking about, whatever position he plays, and you're saying he's doggone awful. You know what? He's one of the best players in the world at what he does. And so the talent is there on the pro level. It's the little things that make the difference. Carnell Tate, they feel, has a lot of the little intangible things, the know-how to get open, that kind of thing. Will he have to learn it again on this level? Yes, but there's no question he can do it.
Now we go to the podium as the New York Football Giants get their selection, and this will be the first one, the John Harbaugh era for the New York Football Giants, as Roger Goodell is joined by a couple of patrons. Let's go to the Steel City in the podium with the commissioner.
Tragic fatal injuries while deployed in Afghanistan. He is survived by his spouse Tracy and their 2 sons Andrew and Benjamin. Major Volke was raised in the Hudson Valley and was a lifelong fan of the New York Giants, a tradition he proudly passed on to his sons. Volke family, take it away.
With the 5th overall pick of the 2026 NFL Draft, the New York Football Giants select Arvell Reese, linebacker from the Ohio State University.
Now, that provides a real shock here, Wayne, because I don't believe the Giants planned on Reese being available at 5. I don't think a lot of people thought Reese would be available at 5. And now the Giants are sitting here with Brian Burns, who they paid a bunch of money to, Kayvon Thibodeau, who I think they took in the top 5 a couple of years ago while we were doing one of these draft shows. They just traded Dexter Lawrence, but now they can restart the clock on a really, really fascinating defender.
There's no question about it. Arvell Reese, I mean, we expected him to go a little bit much higher here. Much meaning at least 2 spots higher, maybe 3. But beyond that, you're right. He's a guy who, the only reason David Bailey probably went above Arvell Reese is that Arvell Reese played a lot of his collegiate career as an off-the-ball linebacker, okay? Now, he did rush the passer, and he did blitz from inside the linebacking core, but there's no question about it. This kid, 4'4", 640, arms were 32.5 inches, hands were 9.5. Very good dimension on this player, 6'4", 244. The thing is, if you are projecting him, and I'm sure the Giants are in some ways, to play at the edge and to rush the quarterback, that part of it may take a little more time. But in the meantime, Arvell Reese is actually a very good off-the-ball linebacker today.
He really is, and he's drawn the comparison to Micah Parsons because of that comp of what they did in college. And similarly to Parsons, he was just highly productive at that spot. Wayne, it's tough when you see a player be so good in one role to just say, yeah, but we want him to do this. But when the second thing is rushing the passer and maybe getting 12, 13, 14 sacks, there's too much value to not put him on the line. But he is going to be a versatile defender for that Giants defense, no doubt about it, and a fun one at that. He just blew away the combine and now is a top 5 selection in the NFL draft, 5th to the New York Football Giants. We have our first trade of the night as the Cleveland Browns have traded back. The Brownies are hanging out with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, that was Wayne Larrivee's first team, right? Because the Chiefs now are up on the clock from 9 to 6. Wayne, I got a sneaky suspicion. Hunter Baumgart's in the studio with us as well as we're celebrating with you and enjoying night 1 of the NFL draft. Wayne, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Chiefs aren't going to be drafting up here very often while Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback and Andy Reid is the coach. Obviously a down year in Kansas City. They had the 9th pick. Right now with the trade package that we have in the details in front of us, it's the 9th pick, the 74th pick, which is in the 3rd round, and the 148th pick to go up 3 spots and go to number 6. There's a lot of ways you could go with this. The Kansas City offensive line has been a problem for a number of years. Maybe they go and they want the first tackle. I don't think that's the case, Wayne. I feel like this might be Carnell Tate's already off the board. We want to go and get Patrick Mahomes, a playmaker and somebody that can do it on the outside. I wonder if this is a wide receiver, if they're worried about the run on Jordan Tyson not being able to reach there with a couple of teams like Washington that might be preying on a pass catcher.
Boy, that's a good question, Billy. The other where they could also go defense. I mean,
very much good. Yes.
Basically given up most of their secondary, either trade or otherwise. But I don't think they'd have to. Well, Mansour Delane is the top cornerback prospect on some charts. And
they traded Trent McDuffie this offseason.
You're right. Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, they could go that direction. They could also go and get the best offensive lineman in this draft as they see it. And that's probably Francis Mauanoga out of Miami. You're looking at some other guys, maybe Monroe Freeling. I think he's a later first-round draft choice. But, these are some guys, when you take a look at it, what they have there, Spencer Fano. Maybe they're looking to take care of that offensive line. There's been a lot of talk in Kansas City. They've got to do a better job of protecting Patrick Mahomes, especially since Mahomes is coming off a major ACL injury.
Yeah, he had an ACL and stuff, right? I think it was an LCL. They said there was a lot of cleanup in there. Again, Browns had the 6th pick. They've now traded it to the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs giving up a 3rd and a 5th to go up a few spots to make this selection. Offensive line would make a lot of sense. You got to protect the franchise. And when the Chiefs, this is a funny thing to say, have lost the Super Bowl in the last 6 years, it's because they haven't been able to block. Let's see who's the newest Kansas City Chief, Roger Goodell.
2026 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Mansour Delane, defensive back, LSU.
So that is being met with some tempered emotions and excitement there in Pittsburgh. I think that might just be with Kansas City being the focal point. Delane can play. He was consensus the number 1 corner in the draft. However, Wayne, the most impressive tape is a guy that's going to come up later on in the draft. But Delane is a real guy. He D'd up some of the best players in the SEC on a week in and week out basis playing at LSU.
Do you think they had to trade up 3 spots to get him?
I didn't think so. I
didn't either.
I didn't think so. This makes me feel like Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys were getting an itchy trigger. It sounded that was the other team that made a lot of sense to try to go up here. When they moved up, Wayne, I'll be honest with you, I thought it might have been a Caleb Downs move. Now that one I definitely think you could have gotten at 9.
Yes.
I didn't anticipate you'd have to go up and get Delane, but maybe Brett Veach was feeling some pressure.
I mean, you still had on the board Sonny Styles, Spencer Fano, Reuben Bain Jr., still on the board, Francis Mauanoga, a tackle, if you wanted to go that way. But they go up for the cornerback, and that's an interesting choice.
It's a move that I would I did not anticipate you'd have to go. But listen, if they want this is the other part of this, Wayne, and this is the difficult thing when you have a draft where there's a lack of what a lot of people believe are blue chip top end prospects, where it's like, hey, we've now just watched 3 of ours go. We got to go and make sure we grab one. Because again, if you're Kansas City, you're not anticipating having a whole lot of top 10 picks. You want to get the guy you need. And if it means that you don't get to pick once on day 3 and maybe again tomorrow night, I guess that mathematics worked out for them in that.
Delane ran the 40 and a short shuttle, a 4.38 at the pro day, but declined other testing. He's a guy that some have him, he's a lockdown kind of cornerback. Is he going to be great? Some scouts say, yeah. Some scouts have said cinch Pro Bowler, and other scouts, and again, everybody's got a different opinion on these. Every team has a different opinion on these players we're talking about here tonight. But some scouts have said, he's just going to be a guy. But I got to tell you something. If it comes down to instincts at that position, this kid has it. And he has ball skills and athletic ability. He had 8 interceptions, 27 pass breakups, forced 4 fumbles. I think he's the kind of guy that Kansas City's looking at in their defense and saying he can be a lockdown corner. And Steve Spagnuolo knows how to use those guys. He
definitely does. And when you lose an outside corner of the caliber of Trent McDuffie, you got to be able to replace him. And I appreciate and I like the conviction of Kansas City saying, this is who we think is going to be the guy to be able to take. This is our best asset. We're going to go and get the one that we want. Kansas City will also pick later on here tonight. They have the 29th pick in that trade to acquire Trent McDuffie. That also might have been the 5th round pick that I believe they acquired in that trade for McDuffie. I think it was a 1st, a 5th, and a 6th, or a 1st and a 4th and a 5th. So they had some more ammunition. They utilized some of it to go and get the heir apparent there on the outside. You mentioned Steve Spagnuolo knows how to coach defense, and a team that also was one that after year 1 of the Jaden Daniels experience, Wayne, I think Commanders fans were like, sweet, all right. I'll kick my feet up. I like this penthouse suite of going to the NFC title game. Got a young quarterback that everybody loves. Well, he gets hurt. You got some trouble in River City. Offensive coordinator and head coach might not be getting along very well. And all of a sudden the Commanders are back up into the top 10. Feels like a spot where they could absolutely go best player available, and there's a lot of varying degrees as to who that might be. I think one is Sonny Styles and a Dan Quinn defense. That feels like a good marriage.
I think so. And I would be surprised if that's not the pick right here. They could go another direction. Is this too high to take a safety? There's a heck of a safety out there. But, remember, Jeremiah Love at running back became the first running back drafted in the top 5. Since Saquon Barkley was picked 5th in 2018? I mean, it's not often that you get, sometimes position running back for a long time was a position that was down in the draft, at least in the first round. Same thing with safety, but we're seeing so many playmakers at safety now that make a difference. And you got a guy like the Ohio State kid out there, Caleb Downs. I think he's, so good and so versatile.
I'm with you on that. Let's go to the podium and Roger Goodell. Oh, with a couple of gold jackets, we got Lynn Swan and Jerome Bettis joining the commissioner here.
And the league a better place. You want to go for it, or you want me? With the 7th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders select Sonny Styles, linebacker, Ohio State.
Right, you want to see somebody just obliterate and dominate the NFL Combine. Go and watch what Sonny Styles, linebacker from Ohio State, did in Indianapolis. It was a showcase that saw him run a 4.4 640, jump over 43 inches. Folks, that's almost 4 feet. Just put that into your minds as to how high that is for a guy at 6'5", 245 pounds to do so. And Wayne, there's a lot of intangibles that people will talk about. Everybody that was in that defensive locker room for Ohio State mentioned the fact that Sonny Styles was the alpha. He was the leader. He was the guy that everybody looked at. And also, he was the green dot in maybe the most complex college defense I've ever witnessed at what Ohio State was running under Matt Patricia this year.
Matt Patricia, the former New England Patriots defensive coordinator, the former Detroit Lions head coach. They ran a pro style of offense. Sonny Styles was in the middle of it. Hey, listen, this guy, his tape was better than Reese's in many respects. Some people were telling me one of the best all-around players in this draft. Yes, he's an off-the-ball linebacker, but a guy in the middle. And tonight, if they had to play a game, they could give him the green dot helmet, and he could run that defense. That's the thing, the kind of player he is. Very good instincts with this kid. Reminds a lot of people of Kenneth Murray, but Styles is considered to be way more instinctive. And folks, instinct is what is most important when you're talking about off the ball inside linebackers. Totally. Because they see the play. They're a step away. They have to see the play, read it, diagnose it, and go get it. And not everybody can do that. Some guys can run real fast. Quay Walker is one of my favorite players of the Packers, but he wasn't real instinctive. Yeah. And therefore, he made a lot of tackles, but he didn't make a lot of big plays in his career. So this guy has instinct, and that's the first thing I look at. Dave Wanstead, a long time ago, former Cowboys defense coordinator and Bears coach, told me that instinct. When you talk linebackers, you talk instinct first, and you go from there. Then how fast can they run? Are they sure tacklers? But if they don't see the play, if they don't have the instincts to read the play, I don't care how fast they are. I don't care how good a tackler they are. They're not going to be as good as you probably need them to be.
Because all of these guys are running those ridiculous 40s, right? I feel like everybody that we've said here is either run a 4.4, a 4.5.
They come out of the womb at least 4.5.
Yeah, like at that point, it's just a birthright that you're running something like that. And Styles being a guy to anchor the Dan Quinn defense, I just immediately think of the guy who just left there. And Bobby Wagner, who was just such a pillar of consistency at that spot. And Wayne, I just don't care. I don't care if you take the guy at 7, 17, 87. If he's a great player and you believe he's a great player, go get him. And I like the fact that Washington had the conviction to go and grab Sonny Styles. He's a playmaker and going to have a lot of fun there in DC playing for the Washington Commanders, and that Dan Quinn defense going to chase around the football a lot. His brother will most likely go coming up on day 3. He's playing in the secondary at Ohio State. Not as just saying it, not as large as Sonny Styles. I think his brother's near like 6'1", 6'2", just north of 200 pounds. But that's a dude right there. And now the New Orleans Saints, who I thought, Wayne, might have been the team to jump up a couple of spots. I thought maybe they would be the team to get an itchy trigger finger and go try to get a Jeremiah Love. They now sit here on the clock at pick number 8.
Yeah, and then one last thing on Styles. His father, Lorenzo, was drafted in the 3rd round by the Falcons, started 8 of 70 games as a linebacker in a 6-year career. So Sonny Styles comes from football stock.
And I love pedigree, right? Again, another one of those things that might be overvalued, but if you've seen it and your family is almost trained for it, I think that's a good thing to be able to lead into. We've seen too much of that success.
Big and fast. That's what he is. Big and fast.
It'll work out, and that plays more than anything. 3 Ohio State players picked in the top 7, the most in the common draft era. I believe that just said since 1980. 7, the most from one school in the first 7 picks of the
How
NFL
did they
draft.
get boat raced by Indiana in the Big Ten championship game, huh?
No kidding. Well, how did they get beat by Miami? No, somebody that had Ohio State laying 5.5. I'm still trying to answer that question, right?
So is your bank account.
I'm still trying to figure out that question. Well, Arbel Reese might have helped us out, and all of the fun that you can be having is at the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sports betting oasis for fans everywhere with dozens of sports betting kiosks, drinks, food, a monster, over 2,000 square foot video wall, and plenty more. It's a place for you to invest and, frankly, become a legend. Potawatomi Sportsbook. More info online, potawatomi.com/sportsbook. Get some reservations in there. Enjoy night number 2 of the draft. Make sure you go check out their game day shuttles. You're going to see a Brewers and Pirates game this weekend. Best place to get a ride to and from the game is the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Just make a same-day sportsbook bet or a sportsbook dining purchase. Jump on, grab a wristband, grab a ride to and from the game, and enjoy. Grab a comfortable chair and grab a beverage. Wayne Larrivee, voice of the Green Bay Packers, is right there. We're produced by Hunter Baumgart here tonight, and we're joined by all of you on Facebook, YouTube, and X. It's Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin's NFL Draft Show in 2026.
Welcome back to Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin's exclusive coverage of the NFL Draft. Draft coverage on Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin is presented by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Potawatomi Sportsbook is the sports betting oasis for fans everywhere. With dozens of sports betting kiosks, drinks, food, a monster video wall, and more. It's your place to become a legend. The picks are in, and we're breaking down every pick as it happens and discussing how all of it impacts your Green Bay Packers.
Goody and the guys did a really good job having that board stacked, and we got a lot of guys that we actually targeted prior to the draft.
So let's get back to it with the guys.
Jordan Love, when I watched him on tape, it looked like he was throwing kind of like a Nerf ball.
Along with the voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee, here is Packers OT host Bill Schmid.
Welcome into hour number 2, and welcome back to our coverage of the 2026 NFL Draft on Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin. You're listening on 1070 AM in Madison, 920 AM in Milwaukee, watching us on YouTube, X, Facebook, all of the streamers, second screening it up here tonight. We appreciate you being with us, and drop into the chat. We'll hit up some chats and some talking text line messages throughout the night at 877-794-1973 as well. But Wayne Larrivee, voice of the Green Bay Packers, is right there. I'm Bill Schmid, and we go back quickly to the Steel City as moments ago, Roger Goodell with the pick from NOLA.
With the 8th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, Arizona State.
Jordan Tyson is a talent, Wayne Larrivee, no doubt about it. A very, very elite catcher of the football. But there's always going to be a story, and it feels like there's no clean prospect in this draft outside of the first 4 or 5 guys that we saw go here tonight. Jordan Tyson is in that conversation because you can't start the conversation about the 4th-year junior without talking about the games he missed as much as the plays that he made.
Yeah, he's been somewhat injury prone. That's the big question on him. For the Sun Devils, he returned to play in 3 games as a sophomore before suffering a broken collarbone in 2024. Sat out 3 games in 2025 with a hamstring injury. Still didn't work out for scouts during the offseason. He might be the best pure receiver in the draft in many respects. We don't have a 40-yard time on him, but he's had an ACL late in the season and thus wasn't able to really work out for the scouts this year. But the one thing is durability. But the other factor is this: they've got Chris Olave on one side. They like Jordan Tyson. I just think it's a bit of a reach here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect Jordan Tyson in the top 10. I expected him top 20, but not top 10. That's just my opinion. But he's a Jerry Jeudy type receiver, okay?
Oh, I like that comparison, yeah.
In skills and in route running ability. But the question is, and again, this is the thing that gets me, and the NFL does this a lot, folks. The thing is, if a kid has been injured repeatedly on the collegiate level, we in the NFL sometimes say, well, wait till we get him with our trainers and our training room and our meal process and everything else. And you know what? No. The NFL, folks, and don't let any personnel guy tell you this, the NFL is a 100% injury rate. If you were banged up in college, you're not going to get healthy playing NFL football.
No, it just doesn't happen, and we'll see if it is able to be fixed and rectified there. Let's go. We go back to the podium with the commissioner in the 9th pick tonight. It is Spencer Fanu. Spencer Fanu is the first offensive lineman taken as he celebrates in a phenomenal palatial estate there in Spanish Fork, Utah. His brother, also a member of the Utah Utes. This is a physically imposing offensive lineman. He put a C on his chest for a reason, Wayne. He's the first offensive lineman taken, and rightfully so. He's a mauler. Now, here's the thing. He's a right tackle. He said he can play left. He even took, I believe, reps at the Combine or the Senior Bowl at center to showcase that he will do whatever it is in the NFL that they want. But he played mostly at right tackle, and that's where he excelled, like a lot of the prospects here in this year's draft. Maybe not the best thing that NFL scouts or talent evaluators want, But if he's a good right tackle and he's going to be a mauler over there, you can run over onto the right side just as well as you can to the left.
Well, the arm length is the big question mark with this prospect. Shortest of the top 20 tackles, 32 and an eighth. Hands were 9 inches. So we're not talking about big pitching gloves and mitts. When he gets them on you, you're dead. No, nothing like that. But Fano, very effective at the right tackle position. The concern the scouts had, that the scouts that I read, Billy, was with Will Campbell of the Patriots. Remember how he got beat up in the playoffs and Super Bowl? He was a little bit on the short arm sides too, 32 and 5/8. But, when you look at these guys, and Fano was just, like I said, a solid guy. 4 of his uncles played in the NFL. This is a guy, the thing about it, okay, his arms are short, but he's got great feet.
Great feet.
Offensive tackle, you have to be a dancing bear out there, whether you're on the left side or right side, and he has great feet. That's how he'll overcome the shorter arms.
You and I marvel seemingly all the time at training camp of just the footwork that Zach Tom possesses.
Yeah.
And it reminds me similarly for Spencer Fanu. And I remember doing this draft show with you when we watched Zach Tom coming out of Wake Forest, where it was like, he might be a little small, might be a little slight, might be a little light in the pants.
Maybe he's a guard.
But if he moves his feet like that, he can block anybody in the NFL, and he's proven to do just that.
We all thought coming out of college, maybe he's a guard. And yet they stuck him at tackle, and he played tackle all summer. And I asked Luke Butkus, I said, what's the deal on this kid? He said, hey, it's the feet. And that's what it is at tackle. It's all about the feet.
And as we were talking about one offensive lineman, even better, which I just love, Francis Mauigoa also goes. He goes to the New York Football Giants. So check this out for the Giants. All of a sudden, they grab Arvell Reese, who might be the best defensive player, a lot of people thought, in the draft. They get him at 5. Then they go and grab an offensive lineman at number 10. Pretty nice start to the John Harbaugh era there in New York. They're making and putting some imprints on this team, exactly who they want and what kind of football team I think they want to be.
Yeah, well, when you're picking high in the draft in the top 10, you got 2 picks in the top 10. You're going to have it's going to look like a good draft,
It's
Billy.
going to look good.
At
That's
least
true,
tonight.
Wayne. Yep, it looks great here tonight. We have our second trade of the night and the first on draft night of the John Eric Sullivan era in Miami, as the South Beach Packers take over there of the Miami Dolphins. Jeff Hafley, new head coach. John Eric Sullivan, new general manager there for the Miami Dolphins. They had the 11th pick. They traded it to the Dallas Cowboys, who go up 1 pick here to select who I can only think would then be Caleb Downs. They were one of the worst pass defenses on all of football last year, Wayne. They could never buy a stop. Dak Prescott was actually awesome last year when you look at it, and their offense was pretty dang good. They just couldn't stop a nosebleed consistently through the air.
The only other player I would think that's still on the board right now, Reuben Bain Jr. could be targeted for Dallas, possibly. With this move, but I think you're right. I think they went up to get the safety.
And I thought that Mauigoa is another guy who's definitely more of a right tackle. I think you might be able to play him at left, but again, he's a great right tackle. Keep him at right tackle. The other thing for the Giants is they don't necessarily need a left tackle. Andrew Thomas is a bona fide player at that position. He missed most of last year with an injury. Their hole was on the right side, and I imagine that's where Mauigoa goes. 5th American Samoa-born first-round pick in the common draft era. Congratulations to him. And now another team in that NFC East comes up, and the Dallas Cowboys, they have their first of their 2 selections here, as obviously they have the 20th pick, which had previously been with our Green Bay Packers. And at that point, we're going to celebrate and play a number of Wayne Larrivee highlights of Micah Parsons chasing down Jared Goff and making big-time plays for the Green Bay Packers. And that's what we'll celebrate coming up at pick number 20 here, because the Packers will not be selecting thanks to that trade. Wayne, it is crazy when you think of the precedent that deal set, though. First time in 40 years to go into the offseason without a first-round pick. People that say, I want the team to be bold, I want them to go all in. Well, that's what an all-in move of trading 2 first-round picks for Micah Parsons
and getting a player of that caliber at that age, okay? Mid-20s, and not 30, not 29, but I believe Parsons was, 25, 26 last
I think,
year.
when they acquired,
So, that was why they made the move. And by the way, the Packers don't have a first-round draft choice next year either. As a result of that trade. I think, Billy, right here at number 10, Dallas moving up one spot. I think they go Caleb Downs. I think this is the time to take the safety. I would have been a little uncomfortable taking a safety in the top 5, even this safety. But at this stage, I think that's where this is a good fit.
And again, maybe you would think, well, if you're going to go secondary, why would you not go corner? That's where it's dicey in this year's draft. You'd be reaching at that point if you're going to go corner. Because, as we mentioned, Mansour Delane already off the board. He goes to Kansas City at 6 when they trade up to grab him from LSU. Jermod McCoy has the best tape of any of the corners in this year's draft. However, he might have the toughest injury red flag out of anybody, as he missed all of 2025 with a torn ACL. Everybody anticipated he would be ready for combine workouts, ready to roll. Well, they ran the 40, and then they're like, well, actually, you know what, these position workouts, I'm about. No thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. So there's some question marks if he'll be ready to go come camp. And again, as Wayne just said, if you're hurt going into the NFL, the National Football League is not the place to get healthy. It is not the place to get better and to become a pillar of health.
The National Football League is not a spa, not a health spa, folks.
No, it is not that Albiante place down in Sedona either. It definitely doesn't have those beautiful views of Sedona.
This early? Wow. I thought that would be at least for after the 4th or 5th cup of coffee, we'd go into that dark side of the NFL.
Oh, Wayne, I have all those. I don't do a lot of pre-written jokes. I don't have a lot of pre-written statements. I wrote a lot of those ones down because I wanted to make sure that we didn't step on anything bad.
It's a long night. There's another one tomorrow night and an even longer day on Saturday, Billy. Don't shoot everything you've got.
You got to save the best for last. You got to hold on to some of it. Okay, so the trade is for Dallas to go up one spot. They move the 177th pick and 180th pick in this year's draft. For those keeping track at home, those are both in the 5th round. So a pair of 5th rounders go to Miami. Talk about a team that's just blowing it up. I mean, Miami could not have done any more of a hacksaw job to their roster as they just gutted it. Getting rid of Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Waddle. They'll have another first-round pick, Denver's first-round pick here later on, and acquire a couple of more. John Eric Sullivan excited to put his fingerprints on this team for the Dolphins. We'll have a lot more on the Dolphins coming up in a couple of minutes. But for the Cowboys in particular, wherever you go on defense, it was such an issue last year, and I just mentioned where they ranked in terms of pass efficiency. Makes it even more frustrating, Wayne, as I've gone back and looked at it for Packers fans. How on earth were you unable to get that thing done when you were down there in Dallas in overtime in a wild game with the Cowboys early on in the season?
Yeah, really. I mean, one of those moments, that and the Cleveland game, 2 games.
Back-to-back weeks.
Really hard not to win both of those games the way that the Packers had things going. But
a difficult common denominator for the Packers this year. The one thing that was consistent is their ability to find ways to lose.
Yeah, unable to get over the hump.
Yeah, and now let's see where Dallas goes and who they try to bring in to get them over the hump.
The Dallas Cowboys select Caleb Downs, defensive back, Ohio State.
Swinging a hot bat over there, Wayne Larrivee. It is Caleb Downs. He is the safety from Ohio State, transferred in after his freshman year from Alabama, started as a true freshman for a Nick Saban team. Just let that soak in a little bit. Started as a true freshman for Nick Saban. Shows a little bit of the caliber of the player, the intelligence, the moxie, the ability of Caleb Downs. Transfers after Saban retires after his freshman year. All he does is goes to Ohio State, wins a national title, is a focal point of a defense that was historically performing this year for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And he was one of the biggest reasons why. There were people coming out in the high school process saying he's already a 5-year vet. It looks like he could be a gold jacket guy, and Matt Patricia couldn't speak any more glowingly about this man who's going to go have a star on his helmet for the Dallas Cowboys.
First 2-time unanimous All-America defensive player at Ohio State, at the Ohio State. That says a lot right there. His uncle, Dre Bly, intercepted 43 passes in an 11-year career at cornerback. His father, Gary, He was also a player in the NFL. He was a third-round pick as a running back and played 6 seasons in the league. His brother Josh was a third-round pick as a wide receiver in 2023 and has 198 receptions of 3 seasons with the Colts. And what does all that mean, and why is that somewhat important? Well, Caleb Downs knows the drill, knows what the NFL is all about. It's part of his family. They talk about intelligence and maturity about this prospect, and they being the scouts. In his interview, you can get a feel for that. The guy that, he can rush, he can rush the quarterback. He can read the defense. He started for Saban at Alabama as a true freshman. That says a lot, folks. Let me tell you, that is really something. He's balanced as a tackler, doesn't miss many. But I got to tell you, the thing they like about him is the cerebral aspect, the football intelligence he brings to your secondary. He can run the back line.
He'll run it right away. And I think one of the clean comps that a lot of people have had is Xavier McKinney. I think he's a little more physical, at least at this point in his career, than Xavier McKinney. McKinney's a little bit more of a free safety, going to roam around the back end, a little bit more of a center fielder. Downs is going to get into the box and mess around with anybody.
And Downs is probably better in the box than most safeties. And this is a guy, you're going to want making plays. And the closer you can get him to the football, the more plays he's going to make. But he's not a split safety guy. So if you're running that split safety look, this is not your guy. This is the guy you want cheating down into the box and making plays.
And isn't that kind of what we saw last year was really vital in the NFL? Because it felt like, Wayne, week in and week out, again, a little bit of a cliche, but the most physical team was winning the game, and the ones that felt like consistently they were either able to stop the run or run the football. We get infatuated with airing it out and quarterbacks and wide receivers, and there'll be 7 or 8 of them taken early. But it was about the ground game last year, and Caleb Downs is an additive in the run game from that position.
No question about it. He's a guy you stick in the box, and he can help you against the run. There's no doubt about that. But the other thing they talk about, instinctive, drives well on the ball, very good against the run. He is a leader and always has been a leader on the football teams he's played on. I think it's a great pick, and I think this is about the right spot. We talk about position devaluation, and safety is one of those positions that's devaluated a little bit, but not for long, because safeties are making plays all over the NFL, be they in the slot, in the box, deep, that kind of thing. I think safety is going to be becoming one of a premier position in the NFL.
And he might not have the same size. Like I saw a couple of people saying this, and Daniel Jeremiah calls Chargers games, right? So he watches on a weekly basis Derwin James, who might be the best safety in football and of that style, and he's going to thump people left and right. He's also 6'3", 215 pounds. So he's not that physically imposing. Whatever he doesn't have in size, he makes up for athleticism, quickness, and instincts. Now, the Miami Dolphins got 2 additional picks to move down 1 spot, and now John Eric Sullivan makes his first selection as GM of the Miami Dolphins.
In the 2026 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Caden Proctor, tackle, Alabama.
So Caden Proctor, a fascinating one. Now the 3rd offensive lineman to go. Probably the truest of the left tackles in this year's draft. Caden Proctor is a house, and I mean one that you want to go and showcase, because it is a big house. It is one of those houses, Wayne, that pulls up on the block and everybody goes, who lives there? 390 pounds was Caden Proctor last year in the offseason, lost 30 of it, had a situation and a game this year, I believe it was against Georgia, where the folks at Alabama negotiated with Proctor, said, you get down to a certain weight, we will throw you the football. And they did, and it provided one of the greatest highlights in college football this year when Caden Proctor got the football there with the big 74 jersey at Alabama. He is a phenomenal athlete. Maybe not a great cell starter. Maybe going to have to be on his case a little bit to keep that weight down. But Wayne, at nearly 6'7", and right now standing at 357 pounds, not many human beings that size are able to move like he does.
Well, he's athletic. I mean, he caught and carried the football at Alabama on offense.
Oh
okay,
my gosh, it was
so
awesome.
They got him out. Wasn't that awesome? And I know you had to love watching that tape. at the end of the day, he's big, smart, tough. Those are the guys who make it in this league. He's got the mass. Yeah. And they'll probably want him to play a little bit less than 366, but the thing he has is great feet. That's why he got selected here. Billy, that's why you said he might be the best of the left tackles in this draft, the true left tackles. A guy who can really go there and play starting day one. 5-star recruit from Des Moines. What's interesting, he started out, he was committed to Iowa out of high school.
Hilarious journey,
then flipped to the Tide on National Signing Day, played for Saban as a freshman, then transferred to Iowa and lasted there about 2 months before re-entering the transfer portal and returning to Tuscaloosa.
Right back there to Tuscaloosa. Right back there to the Tide.
There's got to be subterfuge here, but I don't know what it is. It's just that, interesting prospect. It'll be very fascinating to see what he becomes in the NFL.
And his athleticism and his Iowa background make you think had probably a little bit of a wrestling background at some particular point in his time. Won the Anthony Munoz Award as a senior for the best offensive lineman in high school when he was coming out of the state of Iowa. Just an absolute monstrous human being. And he also, Wayne, this is something that sometimes gets discussed a lot, sometimes gets overlooked. He's only 20 years old. He turns 21 coming up in June. That you have a potential massive and long runway with this prospect for a team that is clearly in a huge rebuild.
And you know what, Billy, when you're talking about prospects that young, you're talking about prospects who don't have a lot of wear on the tread of their tires. You know what I mean? That's the big thing. And we're going to keep talking about it as we get into the draft, probably more tomorrow and certainly on Saturday, in the fact that you're drafting older players today in the NFL. Why? Well, because college players are now getting paid. And if I'm a college player and I'm sitting there saying, okay, I can make $500,000 here. Well, if I'm projected to be a 5th or 6th round draft choice or a 4th round draft choice, why would I leave for that? I'm not going to make that much money basically in the NFL in some respects. I'm going to get I'm going to get a minimum contract. So a lot of these kids make more now in college, so they're staying in college a little bit longer. Whereas before they didn't make anything, at least we didn't know of them.
100%, yeah.
And so, they'd come out right away. They'd come out early. And so you'd be able to the NFL likes that because they can get these kids, get their hands on them and train these kids because these kids are like pieces of clay. Mm-hmm. And all the NFL coaches want to do is work with that clay and mold it their way, and it's better to do that with a fresher amount of clay,
a younger piece. And I think the other part of it, Wayne, and the unique, this you could call it challenge, just a difference in the players that are coming out right now. Caden Proctor goes to Miami, and 20-year-old player at this point. He's going to be one of the youngest guys taken. He also now is going to enter the NFL as a millionaire. And we talked about it with a lot of negative connotation in the NIL world as to how developed the players are, maybe in the weight room, on the field, during spring ball, being in the same program for a number of years. It is different now for a guy like Proctor, who weight problem might be a little bit of a question. How's he going to be impacted once he has money in his pocket? Now it's almost like a training ground for once you get to the NFL. That part of the equation might be kind of eliminated from it. You just have to really understand what the biggest and true intrinsic motivation of these guys is.
Yeah, exactly. And again, the other thing is when you talk about the college level now, how hard are they really coached? On that college level anymore, because so many of these coaches have to keep recruiting these kids to keep them in their program.
Yeah, you're a talent retention specialist instead of just a coach and a talent developer, no doubt about it. He's the voice of the Green Bay Packers, Wayne Larrivee. I'm Billy Schmid. Hunter Baumgart's with us as well. We are going to get the 13th selection here by the Rams, and then we'll take a quick timeout. Another team that's not anticipating taking a whole lot of picks in the top 15 are the LA Rams. They were an eyelash away from going to the Super Bowl last year, and maybe one of the dumbest, weirdest, strangest reviews I've ever seen in all of pro sports. That Thursday night game, Wayne, what was it, first week in December, where Zach Charbonnet ultimately gets a 2-point conversion. Looked like the ball was an incomplete pass. He picks it up, walks in. All of a sudden, the Seahawks have life. They win that game in overtime, come back from 16 points down in the fourth quarter. host the NFC title game, take out the Rams. Very well could have been LA that was representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. This isn't their pick. This is the one they trade that they had last year with the Atlanta Falcons and James Pierce being the draft pick there. More on that conversation. But for the Rams in particular, man, good business last year turned into a heck of an opportunity here with the 13th pick.
Oh, it really did. And you mentioned those games the Seahawks and Rams played last year. Two of the best games in the NFL all year. Period. Yep. And you could argue those were the two best teams in the NFL. I was just going to say, I think they
easily
were
argue that. Yep.
Denver had their quarterback stayed on his feet, maybe, but really,
I don't know they had the offensive firepower.
I don't think
team, right?
so.
Yeah.
To stay with the Rams and Seahawks, no. I think those are the two best teams of the league.
Yeah, and frankly, who knows? I think the Rams are always going to be one of the best coach teams in all of football. When you have Sean McVay leading the charge there, it's going to be a tough one to beat. They anticipate being in the mix all the time. I anticipated Jordan Tyson being available right now, and I thought maybe they would go wide receiver because you got to be as all in as you possibly can be with the MVP of the league, Matthew Stafford. Though that's a phrase I didn't anticipate ever saying. I'll be completely honest with you, but before he got traded to LA, never thought I'd be uttering that phrase. Super Bowl champion and MVP quarterback Matthew Stafford leading the charge there for the LA Rams, and fascinated to see who this 13th pick is. Okay, they're showing Ty Simpson. You can't possibly be telling me that that they're going to take a quarterback.
No. I think you got Mekhi Lemon if they want another wide receiver, USC kid, UCLA before USC too, right?
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
I don't even think he had to move, Wayne, for that NIL check.
Ruben Bain Jr. is still there if you want to rush the quarterback.
A lot of opportunities here for the LA Rams, no doubt about it.
Monroe Freeling.
With the 13th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Rams select Ty Simpson, quarterback, Alabama.
I am absolutely floored. Wow.
Oh my God. They could have traded back 6 times and still gotten him there.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so congratulations, Ty Simpson. Congratulations, Ty Simpson. You're a National Football League player, and you get to go learn under maybe the best coach in football in Sean McVay, learn from a Super Bowl champion and MVP quarterback in Matthew Stafford. And you get to live in Los Angeles. That's not a bad life. That's not a bad gig. I thought Ty Simpson was destined to be an Arizona Cardinal a lot later here tonight. And Wayne, maybe Dan Orlovsky was on to something because he's been loving Ty Simpson for quite some time. He's been getting a lot of shade thrown his way, and now he is the 13th pick in the NFL draft.
Okay.
Woo!
This is really no. He's a smaller guy, a quarterback. He's not your prototypical NFL size, 6'1", 212. And as we talked about, it is legal for ski areas to lie about their snow.
Very true.
It is legal for teams to list their athletes an inch or two more than they really are. So I would say Ty Simpson at best is probably 6 feet if he was on an honest measure. But it backed up Bryce Young in 2022, Jalen Milroe in 23 and 24, throwing just 50 passes in 3 seasons, 15 starts. He's a 1-year starter, finished his career with a passer rating of 100.6, also ran for 223 yards and 5 touchdowns. Biggest concern, and it's a huge concern with quarterbacks, because how do these NFL people make mistakes on quarterbacks? They draft quarterbacks who've only played maybe a season, and that to make a determination on a quarterback and his prospects for the NFL, you need to see a lot more than a season. 1 season, 15 starts. I mean, this is Mitchell Trubisky type stuff, right?
Well, and Wayne, that's a great name. It's very, very true that it's obviously one of those things that you need to have real experience. Now, Ty Simpson's dad was a coach, a longtime offensive coordinator, and Hunter Baumgart has some information for us right now. Per Jay Glazer, who is doing the Fox Sports radio show as well, they told Matthew Stafford today of their decision to take Ty Simpson and made it clear it's for whenever Stafford decides that he is ready to move on, that Ty Simpson will be waiting in the wings Very similar, obviously, to what the Green Bay Packers did with Jordan Love and with Aaron Rodgers. However, Wayne, it's not similar because this is the 13th pick in the draft. And again, I'm not, we have gone on throughout the entire day saying, if you like a guy, we'll take him, especially in this year, take him. But man, if you could have moved back 10, 12 spots, and I still firmly believe had Ty Simpson as your anchor for the future. I'm pretty stunned.
And this past season, to give you an idea on his season, he started out very well for Alabama, was red hot, got banged up and injured, tried to play through it down the stretch, didn't play nearly as well late in the season. You mentioned his dad, Jason, head coach at FCS Tennessee Martin since 2006. I got to tell you, this kid, the thing that I'm reading about him from the scouts, very good footwork and mechanics. He's athletic and effective on bootleg throws, accurately on the move. Greatest strength is he's a great kid. He's still no certain thing, but he's a great kid. And the one thing he can never be is 6'4" and 245.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it.
That he could never be that. But again, Sean McVay in the offense he runs right now, if there's a guy that can develop quarterbacks and bring them along and make it work, Sean McVay may be that guy.
He definitely could be. And that's where the biggest surprise for me is, Wayne, where Sean McVay a number of years ago decided that a guy that we talked about earlier tonight, Jared Goff, wasn't good enough and wasn't that much of a separator to get them over the top. Where, I mean, he took obviously quite a bit of public backlash for that situation, and maybe admittedly so didn't handle it very well when they moved on from him. But because he was limited in that case, that aspect, I didn't anticipate that they would potentially go and grab another one. However, maybe it makes a lot more sense. And it clearly does to those in Los Angeles, because there was no situation where they were talking to the owner, Stan Kroenke, like Terry Fontenot was trying to sell the Hill of Beans to Arthur Blank a number of years ago when it was the Michael Penix situation. All right, how about the Baltimore Ravens at pick number 14, Roger Goodell?
Pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Olayiwola Ioane, guard, Penn State.
Olayiwola Ioane is an absolute baller. He's a phenomenal football player. And once again, an offensive lineman goes. And like, if that doesn't look like the most prototypical Raven selection, I don't know one. That is a total Raven right there in Ovalage, and very excited to watch how he translates to their program, as he is their first pick of Jesse Minter's tenure as the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. All right, that Ty Simpson thing was fun. We were going to take a break after that pick. There was no chance in heck that we could be taking that quick timeout. We'll take one now. We're owing it to all of our friends here listening to us on 1070 AM and 920 AM in Milwaukee. It's Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin. You're tuned in on YouTube, X, Facebook, all over the place, and obviously, as always, on the terrestrial radio and the iHeartRadio app. He's the voice of the Green Bay Packers, Wayne Larrivee. I'm Billy Schmid. It's the 2026 NFL Draft Show on Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin, presented by the Potawatomi Sportsbook.
This is Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin's exclusive coverage of the NFL Draft, presented by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Let's get back to the picks. Along with the voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee, here is Packers OT host Bill Schmid.
We're over halfway through night one of the 2026 NFL Draft, and you got it on Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin. Second screening us on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Thanks for hanging out. He's the voice of the Green Bay Packers, Wayne Larrivee. I'm Billy Schmid of Packers OT, and The Huddle, waking up early with you 5 to 8. We'll react to all of this coming up tomorrow morning and get you ready for the first
No, you're not going to be
selection.
at 5 in the morning, are you?
Oh, you better believe it, Wayne.
You are a radio animal.
Either that or a psycho. One of the two, but I appreciate animal. That was a lot more of an endearing term. And definitely not the one that my wife used when I told her that I was doing the double tip. But it's the NFL Draft. This is the fun part. And we got surprises like Ty Simpson going 13 to the LA Rams. And Wayne, if it is not a perfect throwback to the Packers in 2019 going to the NFC title game. However, the only difference, well, there's a couple of differences, and we'll talk about a lot of them. I don't think the Packers were the second best team in football in 2019 when they lost in the NFC Championship game. Like I thought the Rams were clearly.
Yeah,
this year.
you know, it's you're right. It's a surprising pick, but I got to tell you, and Sean McVay has the pelts on the wall. You give him the benefit of the doubt.
He's the only one in that brain trust that's actually won it. Let's go to the podium now with the 15th selection.
In the 2026 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Reuben Bain Jr., linebacker, Miami.
No way on God's green earth, Jason Light and the rest of the Buccaneers brain trust thought Reuben Bain in the beginning of the pre-draft process, Wayne, was going to be available here at 15. Had a really, really good pro day, exceptional year at Miami. Pair of pass rushers, him and Mesidor, who's going to go later on here, most likely tonight. They were animals. Bain does not stop. He is an absolute game wrecker, and he is a force. The motor reminds me, maybe not the full player, the motor reminds me of Jared Allen, right? Just never stops, is relentless to the football, is never going to give in. However, had the shortest arms of any first-round edge rusher in damn near 25 years.
Yeah.
So that's a knock on Reuben Bain here, falling to 15.
His arms are a bit short, 30 7/8. His hands were small too at 9 1/8. But boy, the production finished with 121 tackles, 33.5 TFLs, 20.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 2 batted passes. He runs through people, uses his hands pretty well, not the rangiest body type, obviously, and has the short arms, but doesn't. And, you know, the thing you look at him is the relentlessness of this player. And it pops out at you when you watch him on tape. 156 pressures in his past 25 college games, and that includes playoff opponents. He was this might have been a little bit of a red flag, but I don't think so. He was in an auto accident in 2024. Tragically, a woman in his vehicle was killed in that crash. He was charged with careless driving, but was going just 55 miles an hour in a 60-mile-an-hour zone. So it was not one of those deals where he's 20 miles over the speed limit.
Yep.
Doing 80, like doing a Tiger Woods, 75 in a 35-mile-an-hour zone in some neighborhood, and you flip your vehicle.
Carter a couple of years ago.
No, nothing like that. The civil, so they dropped charges. Charges were later dropped. A civil suit with the victim's family has also been settled. I don't know if that's why he dropped here. I don't think so. I think that basically he's an undersized pass rusher, and that's why he's dropped here.
Wayne, I'm glad you said it that way, because I'm with you. I don't believe that was the case. If that was the case, well, then everybody's got their own prerogative. This is a league built on second chances, right? The NFL
absolutely
is all second chances in some regard. And as we mentioned with Carnell Tate, now obviously a different situation. Adversity a lot of times brings the best out of these players and out of any human being, right? Adversity is where you really learn who you are. And I did feel a lot for the victim's family, who said during the pre-draft process when it first came out, like, we understand what's happening here, but we'd prefer to still mourn our loved one's loss here. It was not a situation of that. There wasn't ill intent or that. No. Hopefully that's not the situation. But they're getting a heck of a football player. And again, you flip on the tape and you see an athlete that just continues to play, and a really, really exciting football player to watch. And Tampa Bay, I say it again, I don't think they thought they were going to have a chance to take him at 15.
No, I mean, this is great value at that pick. Middle of the first round. This is a guy we projected into the top 10 easily. And, the other thing about it, we talk so much about arm length and all this other stuff. I believe Brian Bulaga came out of Iowa, and everybody was saying, well, his arms are a little short.
You're right.
All he did was start for like 15 years. The Packers are right tackle.
That'll work.
The same thing with Reuben Bain. We talk about a lot of these guys and the numbers and what they did in the underwear Olympics at Indianapolis, the Combine. And really what's important is, what did they do on the field? Were they productive on the field? That's really, if I'm in a draft room, if I'm a scout, if I'm a personnel guy, that's the thing first, okay? This other stuff may support what I'm seeing on the field. But first and foremost, whether he's got the other stuff, the numbers, the 40 and all that other crap, what did he do on the field against really good competition? Reuben Bain accomplished a lot.
And he was one of the biggest reasons why they were in the national championship game this year, were the Miami Hurricanes. All right, one more pick before a quick timeout. The Jets again.
16th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. The New York Jets select Kenyon Sadiq, tight end, Oregon.
This was, to be honest with you, who I thought the LA Rams would potentially be in the market for. I thought it was a perfect pairing there. Kenyon Sadiq is a freak of an athlete. Sadiq the Freak was the nickname there in Eugene. Dan Lannon, coach of the Ducks, hanging out in the domicile in the home of one Sadiq. He's the first Oregon tight end drafted in the first round since 1975. Hunter, who was it? I got you. Russ Francis was the name there in 1975. I don't know that he was running the same 40 that Sadiq was. You want to talk about somebody that dominated the combine and made himself some more money? He starred over there in Indianapolis.
Hey, let me tell you something about Kenyon Sadiq. 4.32, fastest 40 for a tight end in the history of the combine. Besides his fabulous 40, combine performance included a vertical jump of 43.5 inches, a broad jump of 11.1, and a bench press of 26 reps. That's 250 going over, bench pressing 250 26 times, Billy. Wow.
Yeah, and he can be an inline blocker if he has to be. He's willing to do it, right? And I think he's going to get better at it. But Wayne, you can only teach that kind of athleticism. I mean, when you see him line up in the inside spot in a trips formation, NFL talent evaluators were salivating at that spot.
He's a big wide receiver at the tight end position.
Big time. And he is going to be a potential star there for the New York Jets. I love their tight end room. They drafted Mason Taylor, son of Jason Taylor, a couple of years ago as well. Now they need to find somebody to throw the football to him. That might help. Maybe that's in 2027, or maybe it's later. We don't know. It could be another quarterback taken here in round number 1. We doubt it, but we'll be here for the surprises. He's the voice of the Green Bay Packers, Wayne Larrivee. I'm Billy Schmid. It's the 2026 NFL Draft coverage on Fox Sports Radio, Wisconsin.
You are listening to Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin's exclusive coverage of the NFL Draft, presented by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. The picks are rolling in, so let's get back to the guys. Along with the voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee, here is Packers OT host Bill Schmid.
There it is, said to us by a young man. I believe I heard Ethan was the youngster's name, announcing the pick for the Detroit Lions, and Blake Miller is the selection, offensive tackle from Clemson. And welcome back. It is Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin's NFL Draft coverage here in 2026. Sure, no pick for the Green Bay Packers in round one, but a heck of a lot of fun. He's the voice of the Green Bay Packers, Wayne Larrivee. I'm Billy Schmid and Hunter Baumgart along with us and along with all of you on the ride. And thanks for second screening us here tonight, hanging out with us on YouTube, on X, on Facebook, also on the iHeartRadio app, radio 920 AM in Milwaukee, as well as 1070 in Madison. We got still over an hour here for you. Wayne, Blake Miller going to go in and have a chance to start right away for the Detroit Lions because they desperately need an offensive lineman. Taylor Decker was a stalwart there for a long time. He said, you know what? I will play another year. The Lions said, sweet, for someone else. We don't want you again. And I don't know if they want to move Penei Sewell over to left tackle. Maybe that's the move here. Miller was more of a right tackle, I believe, at Clemson, but a good football player. And he goes 17 to Detroit.
And looking at the TV, I see his mom on his right, his girlfriend on his left.
Looks like a fun time.
Looks like a
good
time.
Couch to be on.
Blake Miller, when you think about this, there's nothing, Billy, real sexy that jumps out with you about this guy. Nothing stands out and makes you say, wow, but all he does is play down in, down out with consistent technique. And that's what the Lions drafted. He plays lower than you think for his frame. I mean, he's 6'6.5", 318. Arms were 34 1/4. Hands were 9 3/4. 32 reps on the bench press, led the position.
Minnesota Vikings select
here with 18.
Caleb Banks, defensive end, Florida.
Okay. Caleb Banks, really talented football player. I did not anticipate he was going to go 18. We've talked about this a lot here tonight, Wayne. There is a lot of variance. There wherever the mockers, as I think one time you coined maybe the greatest phrase that I've ever heard anybody say, somewhat kind of verbal masturbation at this point, right? We're just pumping stuff out here. Maybe it sticks, maybe it doesn't. Caleb Banks was almost always in the second round. He goes 18 to the Minnesota Vikings, and he's got a big medical red flag on a foot injury. Vikings say, we do not care. We want that big, talented young man from Gainesville to come up here and play for the Vikes.
6'6", 327.
Woo.
Injured his foot last spring. Now, 6'6" and 327, that's a lot of weight to put on an injured foot, so that doesn't come back real quick. Re-injured it in August, missed the first 2 games, hurt it again September 13th against LSU, did not return until the final 2 games. Then at the Combine, he suffered a fractured 4th metatarsal bone and underwent surgery March 9th.
Mm-hmm.
And the Vikings, who are between general managers now,
oh, that's a great point,
I'm sorry.
Wayne.
I'm as surprised about this as I am about about the other pick we went gaga over.
On
Ty Simpson
yeah.
to the Rams.
Banks, I'm telling, I didn't think he was going to be. I clearly thought he was going to be on the board tomorrow night for the Packers at 52, and I was ready to tee up questions tomorrow of how scared would you be with the foot situation for Caleb Banks. Now Vikings don't care. They said, "Sweet, come on up here." Great point in between general managers of the Kwesi Adolfo-Mensa ousting there in Minnesota, because it would appear that there's some questions as to who's fully calling the shots right there, and that is a questionable move at best to say.
Well, again, I mentioned the dimension, 6'6", 327. There's a great quote from one of the scouts. The scout said, he can't get into a gap because he's bigger than the gap.
That's a human.
Is that an awesome quote or what?
Amazing. That's what I want to be known as. And now, again, player comp in the NFL here from Matt Miller of ESPN is Javon Kinlaw. That's a good football player. No, don't make it questionable. He can play within a bunch of different schemes. Again, you can't teach 6'6", 327, and that swim move is serious. But if he can't stay on the field with a consistent foot injury, you're right. 330 pounds is a tough thing to be able to put on an injured foot.
He's boom or bust. He's going to be big time or nothing at all.
But you know what? I broke the 3rd and the 5th metatarsal, so I never did the 4th. Maybe the 4th one's the lucky one. He should be fine.
Yeah.
He should be fine.
Four
yeah,
for
you know
a
what?
quarter.
That'll be fine, right? He'll figure it out. All right, 18 picks in. We still got a bunch to go. Roger Goodell, great work on moving this thing to 8 minutes on the selection.
Awesome. Flying.
Oh, the best move that the NFL has made outside of moving this draft around. Pittsburgh showing off. Packers fans are showing up with all of us here in the chat. He's the voice of the Green Bay Packers, Wayne Larrivee. I'm Billy Schmid of Packers OT. One more hour to go on Fox Sports Radio, Wisconsin.
Welcome back to Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin's exclusive coverage of the NFL Draft. Draft coverage on Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin is presented by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Potawatomi Sportsbook is the sports betting oasis for fans everywhere. With dozens of sports betting kiosks, drinks, food, a monster video wall, and more. It's your place to become a legend. The picks are in, and we're breaking down every pick as it happens and discussing how all of it impacts your Green Bay Packers.
Goody and the guys did a really good job having that board stacked, and we got a lot of guys that we actually targeted prior to the draft.
So let's get back to it with the guys.
Jordan Love, when I watched him on tape, it looked like he was throwing kind of like a Nerf ball.
Along with the voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee, here is Packers OT host Bill Schmid.
And we hit hour number 3 and night 1 of the 2026 NFL Draft. Our coverage is presented by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Become a legend at a sports betting oasis for fans everywhere. Best place to watch and invest in sports is at the Potawatomi Sportsbook in the southeastern portion of the state of Wisconsin. Let's be honest, in the Midwest, it's the Potawatomi Sportsbook. I'm Billy Schmid. That's Wayne Larrivee, voice of the Green Bay Packers. We got a couple of picks to catch you up on. First, let's start with the 19th selection and a team that went into Lambeau and beat your Green Bay Packers last year, the Carolina Panthers.
With the 19th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Monroe Freeling, tackle, Georgia.
And Freeling goes to the Panthers, and like it happened in the 2025 football season, Wayne Larrivee, it was Carolina, then Philadelphia to visit Lambeau Field, and sadly hand the home team a couple of L's.
The Philadelphia Eagles select Makai Lemon, wide receiver, USC.
So Makai Lemon is the selection for the Philadelphia Eagles at 20, right after Monroe Freeling goes left tackle to the Carolina Panthers. Wayne, dealer's choice. The Eagles pick is a trade with the Dallas Cowboys, which is a unique one. In the 20th pick, Makai Lemon would have been your Green Bay Packers selection here in 2020. So now we get to queue up the Micah Parsons highlights here after that one. So Makai Lemon goes 20. Monroe Freeling of Georgia goes 19. I think the Lemon pick is fascinating, Wayne. He's a very, very talented player, but like all of the prospects in this year's class, there's a little bit of a question mark as to how he translates into the NFL.
Biletnikoff Award winner, also returns kicks at 32 kickoffs, returned for 23.5 yard average, 27.1 in 2024. Aside from his ordinary traits, he's a tough, scrappy, highly productive player, but some scouts say he's strictly a slot guy.
Mm-hmm.
But make no mistake about it, with Dontavian Wicks over there now, Makai Lemon, Smith, you know that Brown is getting traded. A.J. Brown's going to New England after June 1st.
Yeah, and Lemon is, I'm glad you mentioned it. Like, it feels like he might be strictly a slot receiver, but if you can be a possession receiver on the inside, that works just as well as on the outside. And the way the Eagles are going to be playing some offense here, Sean Mannion, former Packers quarterback coach, now being the offensive coordinator and calling the plays there for Hurts, feels like a good layup throw guy for Jalen Hurts to get there. And as the comp is Amon-Ra St. Brown, that's a hell of a comp to live up to. St. Brown's a heck of a football player, but Lemon does seemingly possess that kind of skill set.
Julian Edelman's another guy they've talked about in connection with this prospect, Makai Lemon. He's only 5'11", 193, 4.5, 40. Quickness is how slot receivers win, not with time in the 40, not speed in the 40, quickness. But, again, very good hands, and if he's a Julian Edelman type, he can give them production over the middle of the field, which I think will help their outside receivers, Smith and Wicks.
I think it's a fascinating one as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown was a 4th or a 5th round selection, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And Julian Edelman was an undrafted free agent. Like, now those guys were exceptional NFL players, right?
Right.
So you can always outperform the talent level or the draft position. But that's what we're comparing the comp of the 20th pick in the draft. It bodes to what people have said when kind of tampering down excitement and expectation for the draft, Wayne. I think it's honest. Look at where this guy could be, and the comp of him is a guy that went in the 5th round. Now, granted, he's a multiple-time All-Pro, but a guy that went the 5th round. It's a different level of prospect that you're looking at here tonight.
I think so in this draft. And again, we've seen some surprises. There's no question about that. in this first round of the draft. But you're looking at playmakers are pretty much picked over right now.
Yeah,
Real,
no doubt.
True playmakers at the moment. Now, folks, hey, listen, any number of these guys that we're not talking about tonight as playmakers can develop into playmakers, and many of them will. But we're talking just your playmakers right now, guys who today could make a play for you. Those guys have been picked over a little bit.
Yeah, they're kind of long gone, it would assume now. And I kind of thought the playmaker side, tight end and wide receiver for my liking went Carnell Tate, Kenyon Sadiq, and then Tyson and Lemon. So now all four of those guys, Wayne, to your point, off the board. Monroe Freeling might be the truest left tackle in the draft.
I think so.
Maybe the rawest of the guys. I think he's got 15, 16 starts in college,
Yep.
but a true moldable piece of clay. And also, again, things he can't teach. Over 6'7", over 330 pounds, moves like that. That's a hard thing to pass up on the left side.
He comps to Colton Miller of the Raiders.
Really good
Very
player,
good,
yeah.
Really good player. Upside on this prospect, Monroe Freeling, has him on the rise, but his inexperience could make him for some bulky moments as he develops. But the fact is, he's going to play left tackle, and as the scouts feel, he's going to play it really well.
So we have the Pittsburgh Steelers pick coming up here. A lot of pomp and circumstance as we're in the Iron City for the 2026 NFL Draft. Hopefully it comes back to Green Bay soon, but they're putting on in the Steel City. Let's hear how they bring in their newest Pittsburgh Steeler.
Jerome Bettis Leadership Award recipients, featuring both high school tackle players and flag football athletes. Jerome?
The Jerome Bettis Leadership Award recognizes high school football players who demonstrate leadership, character, and service, both on and off the field. Congratulations to each of you. We wish all of you the best as you continue your football journeys. The last time I introduced the Steelers' first-round pick, I was fortunate to introduce T.J. Watt. And with the 21st pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Max Ihanachor, tackle, Arizona State.
Max Ihanachor ends up going here. Ihanachor, I've said this about a couple of prospects. No one had a more unique background to NFL football and to being the 21st selection in the NFL Draft than him. He is a former junior college basketball player, never played high school football. I believe an immigrant with an immigrant family, I should say, and came to the States at a little bit younger of an age. And now, after only playing football for a few years, is the 21st pick in the draft, and the run on tackles is happening, Wayne Larrivee.
It is, yep. We thought it would. We thought we'd see a big run on tackles in this first round. Ihanachor, as you mentioned, he's 6'6", 321, 4'9", 40. Arms were 33 7/8. Hands were merely 9. But again, this is a guy with a lot of upside. You mentioned he's an immigrant. He came born in Nigeria, moved to Compton, California at the age of 13, played football for the first time in 2022 at East Los Angeles Junior College. Started 5 games with the Sun Devils in 23. He's literally only played real football for maybe 4 years, Billy. So yeah. I think what the scouts are looking at with him is not only his athletic ability, but he really helped himself out of the Senior Bowl, showing up well there. But they feel like they've got a guy whose best football is ahead of him because he hasn't played much football.
No, and offensive line is one position where truly, Wayne, however hard you're willing to work at it, I think you can become that good of a football player at it. And somebody that's as motivated as him, it's a hard one to pass up as he celebrates with his family in Los Angeles, California. And, the emotions are hitting him. And that is what dreams are made of right there. That is one of the great stories of the NFL Draft, how he just changed his entire family's fortunes and livelihood potentially with one move. And it also is an interesting one in this week where the Steelers found out, or it was released on Monday, Wayne, that Broderick Jones suffered a setback in his neck injury that was sustained last year, per Adam Schefter, scheduled to be examined later on this week to see whether he'll be ready for training camp or the start of the season. So Broderick Jones dealing with recent surgery on his neck. The belief is he'll be okay. There can be some optimism there. However, one left tackle out. They said we need to get another one in here. And if you're going to be blocking for Aaron Rodgers, and if Aaron Rodgers is going to be the quarterback there again, they definitely need somebody protecting that blind side. I don't know that they would like him to start week 1, but potentially that will have to be the case there in Pittsburgh. That's a fascinating selection, and one that was a real late mover. He was one that seemingly was second round over the last week and a half. There's been a lot of steam that he might be reaching.
A lot of it came from the Senior Bowl there. And again, he tested well, apparently it is a pro day. But a lot of people had him in the second round, Billy.
Yeah.
However, at 21, that's not that much of a reach. And, again, we talked about this at the top of the show, folks. I think the same caliber of player from 18 through the second round is the same guy.
Yeah.
So
pick which one you like. It's like a flavor of ice cream when you walk up to that big old Cedar Crest cooler. You're like, wait, do I want cookies and cream? Do I want Rocky Road?
They're same caliber.
Yeah, right. Oh, this is red raspberry. That might be a different one. Let's go over to Roger Goodell for pick 22.
Pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Akeem Mesidor, linebacker, Miami.
Now, another highly productive player, edge rusher from Miami, Akeem Mesidor, goes off the draft at 22, goes to the Los Angeles Chargers from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And Mesidor is another one with a high motor. Him and Bain were the biggest reason why, Wayne, they made it to the national title game. Bain dominated the game against Texas A&M, but Mesidor had his moments throughout their run, especially that Ohio State game. He was really impressive in.
He's 25 years old. Okay, so he's an older prospect. That's probably the big difference with him and Bain. This kid's 6'3", 260. Arms are 32 1/8. The hands are 10 1/2. So he's got the big dimensions you're looking for. But again, some scouts felt he had better bend at times than Bain. It was a little more athletic. I don't know. You'd have to see over the course, but they played opposite each other. Pure pass rushing 4-3 defensive end is how some have described him. Now, he kind of picks his spots to play the run, but not terrible. Could see him at a 3-4. He's not going to make a living dropping into coverage, but he won't be out of place doing it. He's got a good enough athletic ability.
I like how you said that too, where it's one of those deals where kind of when he wants to be, he can be a phenomenal run defender as well. There's a lot of guys that pick their spots in the NFL, and that's going to be an interesting one as well with Los Angeles. Khalil Mack going in and out, obviously late on in his tenure in the NFL. There's going to be a lot of opportunity right there. Now, the Dallas Cowboys moved back from number 20 to 23 with the Philadelphia Eagles. Dallas now on the clock. Their second selection of the night will be coming up momentarily. Did have to, I can't play the audio because there's some words in there that you can't say on the radio, but Malik Neighbors, New York Football Giants wide receiver, recovering after an ACL injury this year, is on a live stream with Bleacher Report, also with actually Micah Parsons tonight.
Oh, really?
And they're reacting pick by pick, similarly to how we are. And Malik Neighbors got up when Caleb Downs was selected to the Dallas Cowboys and said, I'd rather get him than play against him. Now you're saying I got to play against this thing again, bro? I got to play against this thing again, bro? Bro, he's good. He's very good. Like, he's very, very good. So Malik Neighbors not very happy about Caleb Downs joining the Dallas Cowboys. I wonder what he thinks about this next pick that'll end up joining the Cowboys.
It'd be interesting to see. Yeah, you're right. But wow.
He stands up, rolls around, and goes, come on, man. I got to deal with this guy again. I got to go against him again. Oh, that reaction is hilarious. He was facing Downs when he was a true freshman there. At Alabama when Downs was a true freshman and he was at LSU. All right, trying to get the full parameters on the trade that moved the Dallas Cowboys back a couple of selections here. So Dallas and Philadelphia make the move. The Eagles get 20 and a 7th. Dallas gets this the 23rd pick, as well as 114th and 137. So a 4th and a 5th rounder, or no, actually 2 4th rounders for the move of 3 or 4 spots. That seems like pretty decent value.
That's good value.
I like what Dallas did after going up 1 spot, Wayne, recoup a couple of those assets with 2 fourth-round picks. That's a pretty good deal.
The Eagles had several picks in the middle rounds, a number of picks, and so they've been more than willing to part with them.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Howie Roseman said he would be aggressive in trying to go and find the player that they want. They grabbed Mekhi Lemon, and you mentioned it quickly there in the conversation. A.J. Brown feels as good as gone. The Eagles, where do you see them in the hierarchy here of the NFC? Because they've been feeling like one of the classes in terms of overall roster construction, but man, there has been a lot of bad smoke coming out of Philadelphia most of the offseason.
There has. And, I think with A.J. Brown, they're looking at addition by subtraction, but they've also restocked the receiving core as well. So I don't think they're going to be missing anything there. I looked at them, and what they're doing at receiver is they had 2 alpha dogs in there, okay?
Yeah, you're right.
Smith is the guy they decided to go with. And the other alpha dog is going to get shipped out probably to New England. And what that does, folks, it gives them a little more cohesion. Do they have more talent in the receiving room? No, but they have more cohesion. And that's just as important.
It really is.
Your team has to work together. You can't have 53 alpha dogs. You have to have some guys who are going to do the dirty work that the alpha dogs then will cash in on. That's the kind of thing. So I think it's a people thing as much as it is a football deal.
Yeah, and the relationship, it's a relationship business, right? At the end of the day, it's a relationship business, and you got to be in with the guys that are in the foxhole. And it blows my mind that he was still on the football team after he was reading a book on the sidelines. But you know what? The NFL, we just said, plays for second chances. Oh. And Philadelphia said, wait, if we're going to win the Super Bowl, we'll give him another chance and see if we can run it back one more time. Didn't work out as well in 2025. All right, we have the 23rd selection in the draft rolling through. Roger Goodell, tremendous job with this 8-minute rule now in the first round. We didn't need any more time, though Jerry Jones used all of it for the Dallas Cowboys' 23rd pick.
In the 2026 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Malachi Lawrence, defensive end, University of Central Florida.
Another name that I had anticipated a little bit later on, and potentially even tomorrow when we would be talking about the Packers selection. Dane Brugler at the Beast has him as the 36th ranked player and the 7th edge rusher. Malachi Lawrence, bit of an older guy, but many teams like his skill set. He's a really, really talented pass rusher, good against the run. And, trending on, he's going to be 23 by the time the season starts, but a 5th-year senior and a 2-year starter at Central Florida, a guy that is a pretty twitchy athlete when you're talking about a guy off the edge, Wayne, to be a pass rusher there for the Dallas Cowboys.
And the Dallas Cowboys needed a pass rusher. There's no question about that. And that was a need going in. They have not solved that since giving up Micah Parsons. Kenny Clark gives them good production inside, but they needed somebody who could threaten the quarterback from the defensive line, and that's what they hope this kid can do.
Lined up in a multitude of different spots there at Central Florida. He's top 10 in UCF history and career sacks. And now Malachi Lawrence at the 23rd overall pick will be the pass rusher that the Dallas Cowboys get in place of Micah Parsons, where the 20th pick was the one that the Packers sent over to Dallas for Parsons to start the year. They come out of it with Malachi Lawrence and Caleb Downs. Not a bad night for the folks in Dallas, Texas. All right, we're going to take a quick time out here on YouTube, X, and Facebook as well as 9:20 a.m., 1070 in Madison. He's Wayne Larrivee. I'm Billy Schmid. We got a lot more coming up right after this. The Cleveland Browns are back on the clock, and you'll be back with us in a couple of minutes. It's Fox Sports Radio, Wisconsin.
This is Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin's exclusive coverage of the NFL Draft, presented by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Let's get back to the picks. Along with the voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee, here is Packers OT host Bill Schmid.
Welcome back. It's 2026's NFL Draft coverage here on Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin. Voice of the Green Bay Packers, Wayne Larrivee. I'm Billy Schmid of Packers OT and The Huddle. You'll hear us live at 5 tomorrow morning, getting you all the conversation about round number 1 you need. Hunter Baumgart's in with us as well. And KC Concepcion is the selection at 24 for the Cleveland Browns. Talk about an absolute playmaker and a potential superstar athlete in the NFL. Concepcion was a workhorse at Texas A&M and a team that was very, very fun to watch, Wayne, and Concepcion was one of the big reasons why. He is a dynamic playmaker with the ball in his hands.
Won the Paul Hornung Award in 2025 as the nation's most versatile player. Besides playing wide receiver, he finished 4th in FBS punt return average, 18.2 in 2025. And all, he brought back 30 punts, 16.7-yard average, and 2 touchdowns in his career. As a receiver, 185 receptions, 2,218 yards, 25 touchdowns, Billy. So you're right. He can play the Z, but he's really outstanding with the ball in his hands. That's the thing.
Incredible. And one of the, again, maybe it's just a broadcast nerdy part of it. I love listening to local calls, and especially in college, these guys have incredible vested interests in the program and the guys, they know the players so well. And I listened to about 2 different Texas A&M games driving back and forth to Badgers games, and the radio call and the radio broadcasters couldn't be more excited when KC Concepcion had the football in his hands. Every single time on a 3rd down, you could hear them say, KC's in the slot. Let's get him the football. KC's in motion. Find a way to get him the rock, because at some point, good things happened. And for a Packers perspective, Wayne, I'm just glad he didn't go to the Bears then at the 25th pick.
I am too, but the one drawback on this prospect, 7 drop passes.
Yes.
6th most in the Power 4.
Yeah, so. and when you're dropping the football like that, you might be a Cleveland Brown spot. Browns have had a fascinating last year now and some change in the draft. I think they may have grabbed the best offensive lineman in Fanu. He was the first guy taken here. Yep. Concepcion is a fantastic athlete coming off a year, Wayne, where they had Carson Schlesinger win the Defensive Rookie of the Year. And at one point, it felt like they were going to have the Offensive Rookie in the year in Quinshon Judkins. So Browns might be able to put something together. They got a lot of young talent on that
Plus,
team.
they got Shedeur Sanders.
Well, that's true. That's true. And they got incredible value on it, Wayne. We talked about it tenfold last year. Quick note on that Eagles-Cowboys trade. You're like, wait a second, Cats, Dogs? What the heck is happening here? Eagles-Cowboys? It's not the first time. Probably won't be the last. But Adam Schefter says the last time the Cowboys and Eagles made a first-round trade was in the 2021 draft when the team swapped picks. Philadelphia landed Devontae Smith. Dallas took Micah Parsons. They swapped again this year once again. Philadelphia takes wide receiver Mekhi Lemon. Dallas takes edge rusher Malachi Lawrence. Now, those are tough, lofty standards to hold up to. Worked well the first time, so they said, Wayne, how about in 5 years we come back here and do this thing again? We see if we can each get another All-Pro. I don't know that it'll work the same. Those were 2 high-end players coming out. These guys, especially Lawrence, was kind of all over the place on a lot of different boards. He was up and down. A lot of people with 2nd-round grades on him, though.
Yeah, and no doubt. And but again, these teams are picking players based on how they view these players. Everybody sees it's such a subjective thing. And I understand we all play fantasy football, all of this other stuff. And so we're talking about numbers, but it does come down to when you're picking players, it's a matter of taste. What do you like? How do you like that player? How does that player fit what you want to do? That's the other thing.
Amen.
Yep. And that's the thing that in the draft perplexes people. They say, oh, that was an incredible. Well, they've got a plan in Los Angeles for Ty Simpson. All right. So they've got a plan, and there's no question he's going to succeed, Matthew Stafford. Maybe not this year, maybe not the year after that, but the year after that, probably. Yeah. So, and Sean McVay, they feel confident he can make a quarterback out of him on the NFL level. And the kid has a lot of intangibles. So, everybody looks at these prospects differently, folks. And so when we get surprised by some kind of move made in the draft, if you were to be in that draft room of that team, they're saying, no, this is elementary. This is exactly what we need, what we want, what we're hoping for.
How do you think the conversation with the alleged conversation with Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford went earlier on here today, when Matthew Stafford coming off of his only MVP season in football, and they were you could say 2 games away. I would say like 4 plays away from going to the Super Bowl and being a touchdown favorite in the Super Bowl to drafting his successor. That's a wild turn of events there for Matthew Stafford, Wayne.
Billy, haven't we seen this movie before?
Wow.
MVP quarterback.
I was going to say, do you think he's going to go pour 4 fingers like Rodgers said he did on that night?
I don't know if Matthew drinks. He's from Texas. So.
I think he's got to have something.
Got to have a little whiskey, don't you think?
I think he might need a little something. I would definitely think you need something after that one. That is that's a heck of a difference. You go for a time where, again, that was the best year of his career outside of them winning the championship.
Yeah.
And quickly he's going to be replaced. Also, not to kind of bypass it, the Rams are in an interesting position here where you have your star wide receiver Puka Nacua coming out of a rehab situation. You see, you're hoping to have the exact same production as you did before, but we'll see. We also have another trade coming up. The Bills have traded out of the 26th pick, traded back to the 28th pick with the Houston Texans. We'll hear about that in a moment, because first it's the 25th pick in the 2026 NFL draft. And it's that team down south, the Chicago Bears.
With the 25th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Dylan Thieneman, defensive back, Oregon.
All right, Dylan Thieneman, meet Hammond, Indiana. I don't know, maybe. We'll see. The Dylan Thieneman is the newest Chicago Bear, Oregon safety, really instinctual football player. They had a couple of fun guys to be able to watch on that Oregon defense, and Thieneman was another one of them. They needed some help in that secondary, Wayne. They lost Kevin Byard, who led the league in interceptions a year ago. They had a lot of production and a lot of sticky fingers in that back end of that that Bears defense. Thieneman comes in to try to replace somebody, and you got to think that he's going to have a chance to play right away.
Yeah, we knew going into last year the Bears had 3 safeties they really liked, and they were all coming up on their contract year. Thieneman is the guy I kind of had penciled in for Minnesota because I thought he was the guy who comps to Harrison Smith, the great safety who just finished up his career last year in Minneapolis. But this kid is very good. Thieneman out of Oregon. He's 6 feet, 206, 4.37 in the 40. That's fast for a safety. Went 41 inches in the vertical, 18 on the bench press. Arms are 31 3/8. That's good size. That's good length in those arms. He produced at Purdue, and now he's done it at Oregon. 8 picks in his career, 14 passes defense. Big Ten freshman of the year with the Boilermakers. This is a guy who basically ran himself potentially into the first round. When he ran that 4.37 40 at the combine, boom. Guys, that 40, everyone knows that. The scouts, I'm sure, tell themselves, don't get over enamored with what you see in skivvies running a 40-yard dash, okay?
Yes, no doubt about it, Wayne.
In Indianapolis in February, okay? What did he do during the season in Columbus, in Eugene, against big-time competition of the football playoff? But Thieneman's a guy who's really a good player and sounds to me like he's got a lot of the intangibles you look for at the safety position.
Yeah, no doubt. And grew up just outside of Indianapolis. You mentioned played for the Boilermakers for a couple of years and then went out to Eugene and just validated what he did there, right, as the same kind of player. And also, is familiar with Indiana. So if that's where they end up going with the Chicago Bears, he'll be fine there. He is a thumper, though. And that's the other part. I'm glad you mentioned it with Minnesota. That's one of the other reasons why Caleb Banks was such a shocker, not only because he was like 52nd on most boards. They needed somebody you would anticipate to take over for Harrison Smith. He's been such a stalwart for that organization for so long. Personally, watching him for so long, I definitely think that he's a gold jacket guy. And he was such an anchor for them. I did think that they would try to replace him right out of the gates.
Yeah, I did too.
Seems like kind of a carbon copy.
Yeah, he does. Thieneman may not be as good in coverage, but then Harrison Smith, safeties. Okay, safeties are safeties. They're not cornerbacks, okay? You're not looking for shut down coverage safety. There's no such thing, okay? This kid makes a lot of plays. Harrison Smith was outstanding. I hate to say it, he was a Packers killer. Oh my gosh. If Randall Cobb was a certifiable USGA Bears killer, then Harrison Smith was a first level Packers killer.
Yeah, that was prime cut. He was a prime cut Packers killer, no doubt about it.
It wasn't Angus, it was prime.
Yeah, you were
Angus
getting the
cut.
real stuff on that one. All right, so we got a couple of trades. We mentioned the Bills trading out of 26. They go back to the 28th pick with the Houston Texans. Houston sending the 63rd pick, so right in front of the Packers, or right near the Packers' first pick. Packers have the 52nd pick and the 84th pick tomorrow night. So it is a second rounder for the Bills, as well as the 28th pick, and then 168. They give back a third round pick, 91 overall. So little movement there. And then also we have the 49ers moving back from 27. They'll go to 30, and the Miami Dolphins will trade up to go to the 27th pick. They trade the 90th selection. That's a third rounder. Dolphins also get back a fourth rounder in that equation. So
pay attention, kids. There'll be a quiz after the show.
I was going to say a lot of mathematics here, a lot of moving and shaking. More than anything, people say, I want this guy, and I'm not waiting 2 more picks for him. So, Roger Goodell, tell us who the Houston Texans could not wait 2 selections to get.
Pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans select Keelan Rutledge, guard, Georgia Tech.
What? Okay. Yes. More offensive linemen. Yes. We like that. We also like it for CJ Stroud, okay? Because that Houston Texans offensive line was god-awful a year ago. And Keelan Rutledge is a mover. He is a people mover there at Georgia Tech. Now, he's a guard. He played guard there. But if you can pull around and run block like this in front of an offensive line against a team and for an offense that is going to start trying to run the football a little bit more, Wayne. They grabbed David Montgomery this year. Woody Marks had a good first year. Houston needs to be able to establish more and give a little bit more help to their young quarterback. Their defense is way too good to be wasted how bad their offensive line was this year.
Yeah, and again, the quarterback needs some help from that offensive line. You saw the performance of that quarterback, J.C. Stroud, in the playoffs, and it was just awful. Both in Pittsburgh where they won and in New England where they got beat. Rutledge out of Georgia Tech, 6'3.5", 317. His short shuttle of 4.45 led the guards. Billy, that's an important
big time
indicator there, isn't it?
If you're going to be able to move around and pull the way that he did, you got to be able to have the lateral quickness and the ability to adjust, and he definitely has that.
The other thing, he was a 2-time All-State basketball player at Royston, Georgia, surpassing 1,000 points and 1,000 rebounds. State champion in the shot put, 53-4. So he's a good athlete. He's a very good athlete. I kind of had him maybe targeted for Detroit, maybe not in the first round, but possibly in the second round, as you said. Tough, gritty, strong. He understands. That's the thing. Average athlete, yeah, but he's going to play inside a guard, and he's got that's the thing you're looking for right there. A guy who can move people up front.
One of my favorite things about that I've heard offensive linemen say that they play guard after they play tackle for a while, it's like, it's the easiest thing. All the guys are right at you.
Yeah.
All the guys come right to you. Keelan Rutledge doesn't have to go very far for it, but a solid blocker and a grinder. And they ran the ball a ton at Georgia Tech. Maybe that's what they're trying to do a little bit more of there in Houston. All right, Dolphins back on the clock. We're back for our final segment to finish it up here tonight. On the other side, how did it fly by so fast? Over 1,000 folks second screening us tonight. We appreciate you hanging out with us on YouTube, X, and Facebook. Worldwide on the iHeartRadio app, 1070 a.m. in Madison, 920 a.m. in Milwaukee. It's Fox Sports Radio, Wisconsin.
This is Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin's exclusive coverage of the NFL Draft, presented by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Let's get back to the picks. Along with the voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee, here is Packers OT host Bill Schmid.
Back with you on night one of the 2026 NFL Draft, and we are back now, and we have a pick here, number 28 for the New England Patriots. We'll get you caught up, but let's go to the podium.
Tackle, Utah.
Caleb Lomu ends up going, and Caleb Lomu, another offensive lineman from Utah. So both tackles go from the Utes. They were a dominant run team and a physical football team. And Wayne Larrivee, that one makes a lot of sense. I think he's a really talented football player. They drafted Will Campbell a year ago. Got good returns on Will Campbell. Shockingly, until he went to the playoffs and started playing against the best edge rushers in football, Will Anderson made his arms look short, and the Seattle Seahawks attacked the heck out of him. So they get in some reinforcements. Patriots get this pick at 28. They just moved up with the Buffalo Bills. I got to assume they traded one or two of those picks on day 3 because Mike Vrabel's not going to be there. So he goes, and the Patriots try to rectify that offensive line and help out Drake May.
Caleb Lomu, 6'6", 311. Arms were 33 5/8. So he doesn't have short arms. He's got good long arms. That's not the problem for him. Yeah. Nope. That's not his problem. But at any rate, when you think about it, traditional tackle body that you like, not that he's soft or anything, but he doesn't quite, from what I've been told, finish the way you'd like a guy of that size. Maybe you expect too much when you see that body type, but maybe doesn't finish as well as you'd like. But obviously, an NFL coaching staff, they can get him to finish. But out of Utah, I mean, you can't beat that. Good player, really good player. And I think that's a big pick for the Patriots. They felt after the playoffs last year, they had to take care of some stuff on that offensive line.
100%. Doesn't have the finish like a Keelan Rutledge does, right? Like Rutledge is dominating somebody to the ground, but hey, Mike Vrabel might know something about finishing. Might be able to help that up there with the 28th pick. Chris Johnson goes San Diego State corner to the Miami Dolphins at 27. Wayne, 3 weeks ago, I would have told you that Chris Johnson would have been a phenomenal pick for the Packers at 52. Quickly after his pro day at San Diego State, it was pretty evident that he was not going to be available at number 52.
Yeah, no. And you know what? He's got longer arms than they thought. He 4'4", 140. Arms are 30 5/8. What does that mean for a cornerback? Well, that means he can reach over the back of a receiver and knock the ball away. I mean, it's big time. Finished with 152 tackles, 6 interceptions in his career, 14 passes defensed, and 5 forced fumbles. Speed was the only question on this kid. Then he ran in the low 4.4s, and that's not worrying people anymore. He's got plenty of speed. Big-time instincts. He'll hit and tackle. That's what I like in a cornerback.
Yep.
Will he come up and support against the run? That running back's leaked out of the backfield. He's coming around the corner hot and heavy. Will you stick your nose in there and bring him down? A lot of cornerbacks won't. Most cornerbacks will make a bid decision.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Like we saw at the goal line in the wild card round. Yep.
Yeah, we saw that. We've seen that a lot. But at any rate, this is more of a cover guy than a run defender, but nonetheless, tough enough to stick his nose in there.
Wayne, you just mentioned it, though. It's a willingness thing, isn't it? Like so many times it's a want to, it's an attitude thing. He clearly has that. A defensive player of the year in the Mountain West earlier this year. And when that's one of the biggest conversation points, you can't teach the cover stuff. However, it's hard to incentivize guys to play in the run as physically as Chris Johnson does. So I think that's a really, really good pick.
One more note on this kid. He's the first Aztec cornerback selected in the first round since Willie Buchanan.
Wow.
Green Bay Packers, 1972. And Willie was, I think, Defensive Rookie of the Year that year. He was a great player for the Packers in the early 70s. That 72 team won 10 games unexpected. Dan Devine's second year went to the playoffs, lost to the Washington. At the time, they were called the Redskins.
Yes.
But the Over the Hill gang, George Allen and the Over the Hill gang,
And you were damn right. 1972, defensive
Scott
rookie
Hunter
of the
was
year.
the quarterback. Bart Starr was the quarterback's coach and play caller. And in the playoff game, Dan Devine took the play calling away from Bart Starr, and they scored all of 3 points that day in Washington.
Oh, geez. Well, that's a quick reason why to pull the hook on.
Well,
on
in the
play
next
calling
year,
duties or
Dan
the
then
head
made
coaching
that
job for
famous
him.
Lawrence Welk trade. He gave up a 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 for John Hadle. There you go. And the Packers were buried through the 80s.
Well, and think about it, Wayne. That is one of the only, because that and then the Monty Cade, correct me if I'm wrong.
Why do I remember this stuff? You know, I was a mere child at the time.
Because, Wayne, we remember the losses a lot more than the wins. You've seen a lot of wins, but it's a lot more fun to pick those scabs on the losses.
Oh, my God.
That is one.
It's not fun. It's painful, but we are.
But we're sick and twisted. And we keep doing it all the time. We just won't stop. I don't understand.
I don't either.
But that even speaks to how unnormal it is, how strange it is for the Packers to go in here without a first-round pick. They haven't done it in multiple years since that trade that you just mentioned. And now here tonight, we're taking in night number 1, Packers without a pick. I don't anticipate they're going to trade in here in the next couple of moments, but there have been a lot of small move ups here as of late. And Wayne, there's also a bunch of guys that I had pegged here in round 2 that have already gone. I'm fascinated to see who the Chiefs are taking here at 29. I would advocate for Denzel Boston, one of my favorite guys that I saw play in person, wide receiver at Washington. We'll know it in 1 second. Here's Roger Goodell.
Pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Peter Woods, defensive tackle, Clemson.
Peter Woods, if they didn't play college football in 2025, would have been a top 10 pick. Like going into the year, felt like he was one of the consensus top guys. That's a strange picture right there. Everybody in all white in Atlanta, maybe going to Magic City, I don't know. And my man Peter Woods in a bright green suit.
Yeah.
Well, he is money at this point at just under 300 pounds, goes to the Kansas City Chiefs, and a defensive tackle getting to learn from Chris Jones. That might be a good spot to be in.
The thing they liked about him, he's just so quick for a guy that big.
Big time.
6'2.5", 300 plus. Going to play on the inside. Tape's really good. The only issue is his size and length are not wonderful at 6'2.5", 300, but his production wasn't great this year. But he's got power and quickness and explosive movement, and you're right. He's got a veteran to look up to now in the middle of that Kansas City defense.
And Kansas City remakes their defense with their 2 picks in the first round. They traded Trent McDuffie to the Rams here, that 29th pick that was just taken, just used on Peter Woods. And they also went up and grabbed Mansour Delane with the 6th pick after they traded up from 9. So redoing that defense around Patrick Mahomes. And now Peter Woods goes at 29. And it really was going into the year. He was one of the more intriguing players in the draft process. A lot of people thought he would be one of the top picks, just like they kind of thought Cade Klubnik might be his quarterback there at Clemson. Everything went downhill for the Tigers this year, but now they got a great former NFL special teams coach. So Clemson is going to be phenomenal. We have another trade here coming up as the Jets have traded back into the first round with the San Francisco 49ers. So Niners, this is the second trade back for the Niners. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Hunter. They went from 28 to 30. Now they go from 30 to, I believe, into the second round with that selection and that trade back with the New York Jets. We'll see who the Jets are selecting. And we are almost going to tuck this entire thing into a 3-hour television window. Congratulations, Roger Goodell.
Roger Goodell.
One more time. Wayne, he said it was too damn long. He was right.
Yeah.
And it has flown by, and it has been perfect here tonight.
I don't know what he didn't like, though, about a 6.5-hour first round of the draft. I mean, isn't that everybody's dream?
Yeah, it was what we all wanted when we moved to this thing.
Can you imagine? They had 15 minutes between selections for most of our lifetime in this draft on the first round. Ridiculous.
The only reason that made any sense, Wayne, is if they were selling beer at Radio City Music Hall. That was the only reason, was to get the concession prices.
Or something else.
Or something else there. All right, Jets at number 30 as the commissioner takes the podium after a trade with the Niners.
In the 2026 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Omar Cooper Jr., Wide receiver, Indiana.
There goes Omar Cooper Jr., Wayne. You talked about him earlier today. One of our favorites to watch. I really thought that the Raiders were going to be hoping they'd be able to bring him in and pair him with Mendoza. He goes to the Jets. Again, I like what the Jets are doing. They've grabbed two interesting playmakers in Cooper Jr. and Kenyon Sadiq now tonight.
Yeah, exactly. 4.43, faster than advertised in the 40. 19 starts, 41 games. His 7-yard touchdown catch back of the end zone, 36 seconds left on November 8th at Penn State, gave the Hoosiers a come-from-behind dramatic 27-24 victory, ranked as possibly the most memorable play of the 2025 season. Overall, he was kind of inconsistent, but he made plays because he's always in traffic. Unless they scheme to get him open, he's really physical, he's really instinctive, but he's going to have a hard time getting open to the pros, and the windows become so much tighter in the pros. But on the collegiate level, he was fun to watch. He really was.
It really was, and that's what I liked about all these Indiana guys. One of the reasons why I think Mendoza can be a good NFL quarterback is he was fine throwing the 50-50 ball. They had a lot of guys that went and won those 50-50 balls. Maybe Mendoza's ball placement helped it a little bit, but that is a good one. Now the Jets move out of pick number 33 up to 30 to get Omar Cooper Jr. with the pick that we just had. That now becomes the most coveted trade piece of the entire night, is the 33rd pick. First pick of the second round is one of the best trade assets. It gets traded almost every year because now, Wayne, as we are all done here on night one, a couple of things to wrap up there on 31 and 32. We'll discuss it throughout the night. Tomorrow we start up at 6. Now everybody goes home, thinks of all the guys that they really want to take at 33 and say, we can't wait. We got to go and get this guy. That'll be a lot of trade conversations for the Niners there with 33, I would assume.
But I think with some of these guys we're surprised about, like Caleb Banks going, Keelan Rutledge going in the first round high, and the Ty Simpson going in number 13 to the Rams. Malachi Lawrence going 23rd in the first round. These are guys that were, you were thinking late first round, maybe probably second day picks. And because you're getting the same player from player 18 through the second round, then it gets down to, what do you like?
Who do you want? And it just takes one team. And we saw a lot of teams select their guys that they wanted. Green Bay Packers will be on the clock tomorrow night. Wayne, we're off the clock for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow at 6.
You got it.
There he is, Wayne Larrivee, voice of the Green Bay Packers. I'm Bill Schmid. Wisconsin Draft Show presented by the Potawatomi Sportsbook.